Chapter 3367. Yi Qian had experience fighting overseas and knew how to protect himself, but he was still lacking a little bit. Major General Yang cherished talents, so he tried his best to arrange opportunities for Yi Qian. Even for this exercise, the special forces that were originally sent out were not the Snowfield Brigade. However, Major General Yang personally requested for the Snowfield Brigade, which was hated by both military regions, to be included. He had been paying attention to the entire exercise and knew that Yi Qian was almost attacked on the last night. The exercise was not over yet, but he was already prepared to let Yi Qian write at least a 5,000-word report on the exercise. On the fourth day of the exercise, Yi Qian, who had infiltrated the red team, began to withdraw. As for capturing the brigade commander alive, Major General Yang asked Yi Qian to stop and let the blue team handle the task of destroying the command post. This was because the confrontation between the two military regions was very exciting. When they were fighting against a third party, both sides were obviously inexperienced. The weaknesses that were exposed were enough to cause a few hurricane-like movements. It was better for the Snowfield Brigade to withdraw early. Since they had already exposed the weaknesses of both sides, there was no need to make things too ugly. After the exercise ended, neither side was in a good position. The commanders' faces were always gloomy. When they shook hands after the exercise ended, there was only one expression on both commanders' faces. It was so cold that it made everyone's heart tremble. Later, it was said that both commanders went to the capital to beg for forgiveness. When they returned, the leaders of both military regions were severely criticized, especially Du Kaiwei, who was directly reported. It was obvious how angry the commander of Nangguang was. When the military headquarters saw that the exercise was so unsightly, several military orders were issued. Other than the troops stationed at the border who were not implicated, all the other military regions put their necks on the knife rack. You want a holiday for the spring festival? No way. Go back to training. However, the two military regions also learned a lot from this exercise. Through this exercise, the focus was on how should we deal with a third party's invasion calmly. After a long and time-consuming summary, they sorted out 7 major shortcomings and formulated detailed improvement measures. They also specified the person responsible for the improvement and the time limit for improvement. This was to prevent problems before they happened. Yi Qian, who had returned to the capital to accompany Old Master Fu and Father Fu, did not know that the two military regions were criticized. She also needed to write a 5,000-word report on the exercise. She needed to clearly point out her own shortcomings and discuss the shortcomings of the two military regions in this exercise from a third party's point of view. Yi Qian did not return to the capital first. Instead, she reported to the military headquarters first. During the Spring Festival, the military headquarters was even more serious than before. There were no Spring Festival couplets or lanterns. It was the same as before, solemn, and military prestige. This was the center of a country. What it needed was not liveliness, but the dignity of a country. Outside the gate, there were sentries with guns. Not one of the 3 sentries was missing. They did not relax because of the Spring Festival. Instead, they were stricter than usual. It was lively outside during the holidays, but the national defense deployment was stricter than ever. This was because history told everyone that every major sneak attack was related to a major holiday. Therefore, the national defense deployment had to be even stricter. It was better to be safe than sorry. Yi Qian walked into the military headquarters with a relaxed expression. However, when she walked out of the military headquarters, her expression turned cold. Just now, Major General Yang had talked to her alone for a long time. Every word of advice had benefited her greatly. It was because of this that she understood how important she was to the military headquarters. Chapter 3368. Importance equated to responsibility. The more importance she placed on someone, the more responsibility she had to shoulder so that she could wear the military uniform without regret. The heavier the responsibility, the more strict she had to be with herself. She could not afford to be careless. Responsibility was heavier than a mountain, That was how it was. She had to be worthy of this importance, and she had to be able to shoulder this responsibility. Yi Jian, who walked out of Major General Yang's office, forgot about Xia Jinyuan, who was waiting for her. She was lost in her thoughts. She left Xia Jinyuan alone and walked out of the military headquarters. The conversation between Major General Yang and her replayed in her mind from time to time. Just because you've participated in several actual battles doesn't mean you have a lot of experience. Every battle is different from the last. Every battle is unpredictable and full of danger. Even a veteran general who has experienced hundreds of battles can't be sure if he can survive the next battle. Therefore, you can't let your guard down in every battle. You have to know how to summarize, how to use your strengths, and how to avoid your weaknesses. Yi Jian, youth is your capital, and talent is your weapon. Because you have talent that others don't have and intelligence that others can't reach, I hope you will cherish your talent. Don't waste this weapon that can help you go further in the future and protect you for the rest of your life. When Major General Yang and Yi Qian were talking, he did not get angry because Yi Qian had almost been defeated by the red team. Instead, he broke down Yi Qian bit by bit and told her where she needed to improve. He was very patient and taught Yi Qian like an elder. There was no doubt that Yi Qian was extremely lucky in this life. She had met elders who were wholeheartedly considerate of her, so she would never lose her way. She would always run towards the light and never be swallowed by darkness. As she walked out of the military headquarters, Xia Jinyuan returned to Major General Yang's office. She left? When did she leave? Major General Yang was on duty during the Spring Festival. He was handling daily affairs. When he saw Xia Jinyuan return and ask him where Yi Qian had gone, he couldn't help but laugh. She left about 10 minutes ago. You've been waiting for her outside? Yes, I just bumped into an old acquaintance and chatted for a while. When Xia Jinyuan heard that his girlfriend had been gone for more than 10 minutes, he was no longer in the mood to chat with the Major General. He hurriedly chased after her and said, "Thank you for your hard work. I don't have anything else to do, so I won't disturb you any longer. I wish you a happy new year and a happy family." This brat is like Yi Qian's follower. Since it was the Spring Festival, Major General Yang could not help but tease him. He deliberately said, "You're fine, but I still have something to do. Why don't you stay and share my burden so that I can get off work early and go home to accompany my granddaughter?" Major General Yang was in his 50s this year and only had one daughter. His granddaughter was already 8 years old. Don't work too late. The next time I go to your house, I'll buy a set of dolls for your granddaughter. Goodbye, Major General. Xia Jinyuan did not want to stay and work overtime. He only had 3 days to stay in the capital, and he needed to go to the Fu family to coax old Master Fu and his future father-in-law. Major General Yang more or less knew about the relationship between Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian. However, the two of them had always restrained themselves and did not let it affect their work. So Major General Yang pretended not to know. However, if it affected their work, one of them would definitely be transferred out of the Snowfield Brigade. This was the last thing Major General Yang wanted to see. It was also the main reason why he did not support their relationship. Chapter 3369. However, Major General Yang did not say it out loud. Since the two of them had no intention of making their relationship public, there was no need for him to expose it. However, there were some things that he had to remind them of. The two of you still need to maintain an appropriate distance from each other. After all, you're a male soldier and she's a female soldier. You need to pay attention to your image. Don't spread any unpleasant words that might affect you and Yi Qian. In the military, relationships between men and women were not as lenient as society. Men and women were treated equally in the military. If they were to be punished, they would be punished together. There was no gender distinction. With Xia Jinyuan's intelligence, how could he not guess that Major General Yang was reminding him? He had already walked to the door when he turned back and replied seriously, "Don't worry. The relationship between Yi Qian and I will not affect our work. We will not make it public either." Major General Yang did not want to expose him, so Xia Jinyuan decided to just say it out loud so that Major General Yang would know that he and Yi Qian were indeed together. Major General Yang's mouth twitched uncontrollably. Then he picked up a file on his desk and threw it directly at Xia Jinyuan. You bastard! You have ulterior motives. No. Just take it that I won't hide anything from you and will report everything to you, no matter how big or small. It's getting late. You can get off work now. I will leave first. Of course, Xia Jinyuan denied it. How could he admit that he had ulterior motives? He picked up the folder that did not hit him and put it back on the table with a smile. He said, I just have a little bit of selfishness. I'm sure you don't want Yi Qian to be wronged. With you watching over him, I feel more at ease than my dad. He did have a little bit of selfishness in mind. His little fox was also a military academy student. Although military academy students were not prohibited from dating, there is a species in this world that was jealous of others. His little fox was outstanding enough that it was normal for her to be envied by others. If this species were to find out about it, they might report it behind his back. As he was in the army, he would not be able to make an appearance in time. There was also Major General Yang, who knew about his relationship with his little fox, so it was best for him to make an appearance. Major General Yang guessed his thoughts and said that he had ulterior motives. Don't worry, I'll pass on your exact words to the commander-in-chief. Major General Yang looked at Xia Jinyuan, who had suddenly become much more respectful, and said jokingly, Let's see how the commander-in-chief will deal with you when he finds out. It was perfectly justified for a father to teach his son a lesson. Xia Jinyuan expressed that he was not afraid at all. On the contrary, Commander-in-Chief Xia would definitely applaud his quick-wittedness if he found out. After all, Little Fox was the daughter-in-law that his father was most satisfied with. He was so satisfied that his daughter-in-law was more important than his son. Major General Yang couldn't help but shake his head with a smile as he watched the subordinate he was most proud of leave his office. This brat, he was mischievous when he was young, but now he was full of schemes when he grew up. If he found Yi Qian, the two of them would be a perfect pair, and they would be able to achieve great things. As for him, he was willing to shoulder some of the burden for the two of them. At this time, no one would have thought that Xia Jinyuan's precautionary measures would actually allow Yi Qian to escape the disaster. When they walked out of the military headquarters and reached the high stairs, Xia Jinyuan took a few steps forward to catch up with his girlfriend. At the same time, he held the phone in his hand, which was only accessible when he walked out of the military headquarters building, and called Yi Qian. It was only after they walked out of the military headquarters that Yi Qian remembered that his boyfriend was still waiting for him. He also called Yi Qian's phone. Both their phones received a notification saying, "The number you have dialed is busy. Please try again later." Yi Qian quickly hung up the phone and waited for Xia Jinyuan to call him again. Chapter 3370. Xia Jinyuan quickly dialed again and got through. He said helplessly, "Did you forget something?" Yes, she forgot about her boyfriend. Yi Qian, who had forgotten about her boyfriend, replied guiltily, "I didn't forget anything. When are you coming over? I've been waiting for you outside for a long time." Luckily, she didn't leave in a car, or else she wouldn't even have an excuse to cover up her lie. Xia Jinyuan didn't believe her. She had obviously forgotten about her boyfriend. Feeling stifled, Lieutenant Colonel Xia sighed and said, "You're too insignificant. How could you forget something so important?" Ha. Even though she had an excuse to cover up her lie, Yi Qian laughed awkwardly and quickly changed the topic. "I'm waiting for the car outside. Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, can you accompany me home?" He had to go home together. He had to pay Old Master and his future father-in-law a New Year's greeting. According to the old customs of Shuku village, a married woman had to return home on the second day of the new year. Today was already the third day of the new year, and he had already returned home one day late. He couldn't let Old Master and his future father-in-law wait for too long. Now that he had a wife, Xia Jinyuan temporarily placed his home as his second priority. He had no choice. His family was even more anxious than him. Yi Qian soon waited for her forgotten boyfriend. Her boyfriend, who had an imposing appearance, walked over in a military coat. He was tall and slender, and every step he took exuded the piercingly cold aura of a soldier. Yi Qian's eyes lit up as she watched from outside. When a handsome man wore a handsome military uniform, he would make people's eyes stare straight at him. And this man who could make people stare at him was her, Yi Jian's man. Even Yi Jian, who was not moved by beauty, could not help but rub her fingers in the dark. She really wanted to touch him a few times. Xia Jinyuan was on the phone with his family Xia. Commander-in-Chief Xia, who was accompanying his parents for the new year, said very solemnly over the phone, "When you visit during the Spring Festival, you must be very polite. Remember to bring some gifts. You must be considerate." As his future in-laws, Commander-in-Chief Xia had already figured out what Old Master and Father Fu liked about each other. He told Xia Jinyuan everything and told him to be prepared and not to be impolite. Going to the girl's house on New Year's Eve meant that his identity had changed from a boyfriend to a prospective son-in-law of the Fu family. How could he be careless about such a joyous occasion? Commander-in-Chief Xia did not hide his instructions from his family. Moreover, it was already past 8 in the evening, and the family was sitting around the tea room chatting. As soon as he mentioned it, everyone stopped chatting and listened attentively. Let sixth brother accompany Old Master. Don't miss home, and don't be in a hurry to go home. Madame Fu was worried that her grandson would miss home, so she went to the Fu family tonight and rushed back to the family Xia tomorrow. She reminded him carefully, "It's very lively at home. It doesn't matter if sixth brother and his wife don't come home. Son, daughter, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, granddaughter, and great-grandson." Family Xia's house was so lively that the sound of laughter could be heard through the walls. In contrast, Old Master Fu, who lived in Danguei Garden, was much quieter. Including Xia Jinyuan, there were only 4 people. Madame Fu was kind, and Old Master Fu was benevolent. They could not bear to leave Old Master Fu without a junior to talk to. Accompany Old Master Fu well. Your grandma and I don't have to worry. When Xiaoyi marries into our family Xia, there will be plenty of time. We don't have to be in a hurry. Old Master Fu also reminded him carefully. After Yi Qian finished greeting Madame Fu and Old Master Fu, the 2 elders reminded Yi Qian again. This made Yi Qian's heart feel as warm as the sun, so warm that there were tears flowing out his eyes. Chapter 3371. Family Xia was benevolent and righteous, which was why it remained standing even after going through so many ups and downs. Benevolence and righteousness was the highest standard of traditional morality, and it was also the standard of governing a family Xia. Only by governing a family this way could it last long and prosper. Then, old Madame Xia's kind voice sounded again. "Did you and Yuan just return to the capital? I don't think you've prepared any New Year gifts. How about this? I'll ask the driver to send them over now. It will take some time for you to get to Danguei Garden from the military headquarters. It's closer to Danguei Garden, so we'll meet at the entrance of the park." Jane Eyre, what do you think of Grandma's arrangements? She didn't forget to ask for Yi Qian's opinion and put Yi Qian in charge. She used the speakerphone, so before Yi Qian could refuse, Xia Jinyuan said, "Sure, then I'll have to trouble Grandma to worry about me. My father knows everything that Old Master and my future father-in-law like. You can leave it to my father to arrange, and you can give my father some advice. With your professional guidance, I'll be more at ease." Old Madame Xia laughed heartily at home and said to Commander-in-Chief Xia, "Did you hear that? Sixth brother asked me to give you some advice. Sixth brother is meticulous, so I'm not at ease letting you arrange these things. With your guidance, I'll be more at ease." Commander-in-Chief Xia didn't directly scold his son this time. This matter indeed needed old Madame Xia to arrange. As a man, he was also afraid that there would be mistakes and it wouldn't be good if he made the arrangements. Yi Qian didn't even have a chance to refuse. No, it should be said that she couldn't pass on her refusal to old Madame Xia's ears. Her phone was raised high by Xia Jinyuan, and she couldn't reach it even if she jumped. Lieutenant Colonel Xia, who wanted to please his future father-in-law and old master, didn't want to leave empty-handed on his first New Year's visit. Even if his future father-in-law didn't mind, he would feel embarrassed. She was afraid that Yi Qian would change his mind, so she said goodbye to the old madam and old master and ended the call. She then said to Yi Qian, We can leave for Danguate Garden now. Don't let the driver wait too long. Yi Qian, who had been tugging at his sleeves and saying, "Don't be so troublesome, there's really no need," and so on, also chose to listen to old Madam's arrangements. With her eyes slightly red, she said to Xia Jinyuan, "Grandpa and Grandma are kind and generous, so we can't be rude. We'll split the 3-day break into 2. You can go to my house tonight, and I'll go home with you tomorrow afternoon." There was no need to ask for Xia Jinyuan's opinion. Yi Qian made the decision. She could still make the decision on these matters. "Why are you crying?" Xia Jinyuan held her slightly cold hand and used his other hand to gently wipe away the tears at the corners of her eyes. He smiled and said, "If you go to my house on New Year's Eve, you can only be family Xia's daughter-in-law for the rest of your life. You can't run away again." Speaking of how she didn't seem to want to be family Xia's daughter-in-law in the past, Yi Qian, who was still holding back her tears, didn't know whether to laugh or cry after hearing what he said. The tears that she was holding back also burst out. He didn't even need to reach out to wipe them away. His warm and slender hand had already wiped them away for her. She even heard him tease, "Why didn't I realize that you like to shed your golden beans? It's such a good day, and you actually shed your golden beans. When we return to Danguay Garden later, Grandpa and father-in-law will think that I bullied you and chased me out with a mop. You have to pull them back, understand? When did I run away? If I want to run away, I'll run to your team. I've never run anywhere else." Her eyes were watery as she glared at the guy who was making her laugh. They had known each other for so many years, but he still loved to tease her as much as he did in the past. "If my dad really wants to chase you out with a mop, I won't stop him." Chapter 3372. If he chased him away today, he would definitely come back the next day. There was no one more thick-skinned than Captain Xia in this world. Xia Jinyuan loved to hear these words that were more like vows than vows. His smile spread to the corners of his cold eyes, like the spring breeze that lingered in the depths of his eyes. "I like it when you run to my side. When you're old and can't run anymore, I'll carry you on my back. Why don't you say that you're old and can't run anymore? You need me to carry you. I can't bear for you to carry me. Let me carry you for the rest of your life." Looking down at the military uniform he was wearing, Xia Jinyuan said regretfully, "It's a pity that I can't carry you today. Next time, I'll carry you. I haven't carried you on my back yet." Thinking back to the past, whenever he saw a man carrying his girlfriend, he would do it willingly. It was as if he was willing to do anything for him. At that time, he scoffed and even said to Han Zheng that he would never carry his girlfriend on his back again, nor would he find one. In the end, he really wanted to carry his girlfriend on his back and walk with her. He would carry her. She would lean against his back and wrap her arms around his shoulders. One would laugh happily, while the other would listen quietly. The snow beneath their feet, the towering mountains in the distance, the winding road with the street lights on both sides. He would carry her on his back and spend their time together. Just thinking about it made him happy. Yi Qian wanted to glare at him and say that he would not let him carry him. However, seeing the yearning in his eyes, he knew that he really wanted to carry him. He swallowed the words at the tip of his tongue and held his slender, strong, and exceptionally warm hand. He said softly, "There will be a chance. We still have a lifetime. I'll remember it. When the time comes, I'll definitely let you carry me." There was still a lifetime to go. There were plenty of opportunities. He was not a sentimental person, but the warmth he showed was so sweet that even the air felt sweet. Although it was night, they were on the side of the road. It was not appropriate for them to be overly affectionate in their military uniforms. After a short while, they let go of each other's hands. For a moment, both of them were very satisfied. Even after they got into the car, the two of them still secretly hooked their fingers and held hands. Then they pursed their lips and looked at each other. Usually, it was Yi Qian who looked away first. Then, his ears turned slightly red, and he started to feel embarrassed again. Lieutenant Colonel Xia, who had always been thick-skinned, was laughing to himself. After looking at each other for so long, his little fox was still shy. TSK, TSK, TSK. How could she be so shy? In the car from the military headquarters to Dan Guay Garden, The two of them were like children who kept making small movements in the dark. The smile in their eyes never disappeared. The car couldn't enter Dangaway Garden. The driver could be considered half an old Beijinger. He more or less knew a little about this area. When he saw the two soldiers coming here, there was a trace of awe in his eyes. This place was not for the rich, it was for the rich. It was said that the security inside was so tight that all the armed policemen patrolling the area were not allowed to enter. For these two young soldiers to live here, they were really born with a golden spoon. The taxi driver lowered his head and leaned over the steering wheel to look outside. He smacked his lips enviously before driving away. Everyone outside knew that there were rich people living in Dangaway Garden, but no one knew how expensive they were. After all, the people living here were all old scientists who had made great contributions to the country. After they were taken care of, they had to pay more attention to their safety. Each and every one of them was a moving treasure trove. Safety came first. Chapter 3373. After getting out of the car, Xia Jinyuan went to the driver, who had been waiting for more than 10 minutes, to pick up the gifts. The driver opened the trunk and explained in detail every time he took out a gift, including whether it was for Old Master Fu or Chief Engineer Fu. He explained everything one by one until Yi Qian was dumbfounded. Everyone in the family, including her, got gifts. Xia Jinyuan didn't think it was too much. Third uncle gave him too many gifts, such as ginseng and velvet antler. The driver counted the gifts carefully while he listened carefully. Fortunately, although there were many gifts, they were small and didn't take up much space. The driver repeated old Madam's words, which roughly meant that when her granddaughter-in-law went over, Grandma must give her a very big red packet. She also asked all the uncles and aunts to give her a big red packet. Yi Qian blushed when he heard the driver's words. After counting, the driver handed the car keys to Xia Jinyuan and prepared to help him put the gifts back into the trunk. Xia Jinyuan saw that it was getting late, so he asked the driver to leave first and he would do it himself. Dangaway Garden covered a large area, and all the villas were hidden in the woods. It was impossible for them to walk home, so they had to take the car. After the driver left, Yi Qian looked at Xia Jinyuan, who was ringing the gifts until his arms were outstretched, and said, "It's too much. It's too expensive. Did old Madam empty the house?" Not really. The car could drive directly into Dangaway Garden. Grandma already restrained herself by not filling up the back seat. With the gifts in hand, Xia Jinyuan spoke with confidence. It was indeed inappropriate for him to go empty-handed. As he spoke, he put the gifts back into the trunk one by one. "It's cold. Wait for me in the car." Yi Jian took the gifts from his other hand and said, "It's already scary enough. When my father sees you later, he'll think that you're here to deliver the betrothal gifts." Yi Jian took the gifts from his other hand and said, "It's scary enough. I wanted to give the betrothal gifts, but you didn't agree. Hurry up and pack them. Don't talk nonsense. You brought them up first, but you won't let me speak first? That's unreasonable." She was being unreasonable. Yi Qian snorted softly, but a happy expression appeared on his face. Old Master Fu and Father Fu did not know that Yi Qian would be back, so the two of them and Uncle Fu spent the New Year at home. They did not feel lonely at all. On the eve of the Lunar New Year, the neighbors all came over to invite the family over for dinner. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, there were even more neighbors who came to give New Year's greetings. There were also scientists from the Aviation Institute and Old Master Fu's former students. The house was very lively. Today was the third day of the Lunar New Year, which was also the Old Madam's birthday. Everyone knew that the Old Master would not receive guests on this day. After 2 lively days, the Old Master and Father Fu ate a bowl of vegetarian noodles and went to the chess room to play chess. The third day of the Lunar New Year passed quietly. It was already 9 o'clock in the evening. The butler, Uncle Fu, was preparing Chinese medicine for the Old Master to wash his feet. It was used to disperse the cold and dampness so that the Old Master could sleep better at night. Since it was winter, the Old Master's legs always hurt. Medicine was not effective, but soaking his feet in Chinese medicine could alleviate some of the pain. Even the herbs were pure wild. They were effective and long-lasting. Only then did the old master feel less pain at night. The medicine was poured into a wooden basin and covered with a thick cotton towel. Uncle Fu wiped his hands and prepared to go to the chess room to ask the old master to come out. At this moment, the doorbell rang. Ever since he moved into Dangue Garden, no guest came to give New Year's greetings on the third day of the Lunar New Year. They would not come over in the middle of the night, except when the old master had not retired and there was an emergency in the Aviation Institute that required his attention. Chapter 3374. Uncle Fu turned around and walked to the door. When he opened the door, he saw a beautiful couple standing in the warm red light of the lanterns. Uncle Fu was so happy that he was stunned. "Happy New Year, Uncle Fu." Yi Qian and Xia Jinyuan smiled and said at the same time. Uncle Fu had taken care of the old master for more than 20 years and was Yi Qian's elder, so he deserved their respectful greetings. The two of them spoke at the same time, which made Uncle Fu come back to his senses. He said excitedly, "Happy New Year, Happy New Year. You two are even better." Then he raised his voice and shouted into the house, "Senior Officer, Yuxing, our little princess is back. Our little princess is back. Our princess is back." Yi Qian, who was about to step into the house, almost sprained his ankle. "Princess." Lieutenant Colonel Xia, who was quick to react, held his frightened girlfriend and said in a low voice, "She is indeed the princess, and also the little princess in my heart." After raising his voice, Uncle Fu was so excited that he couldn't speak properly. He was so happy that his eyes narrowed into slits. "Yes, she is our little princess," Senior Officer said himself, "so it can't be wrong." Uncle Fu, who was serving the old master, thought that every word he said was correct, so he followed him closely. The father and son, who were still playing chess in the chess room, suddenly heard Uncle Fu's voice. The chess piece between the old master's fingers fell onto the chessboard with a bang, hitting another chess piece. "What did you just say? Xiao Fu, what did you just say? Our little princess is back." Old people tended to react slower, but Father Fu reacted much faster. He put the chess piece he was playing with into the box and immediately got off the tatami. He answered the old master, "Our little princess is back. Ah, she really is back. I thought I heard wrong. Quick, get out." When the old master heard this, he stood up a little too quickly. Father Fu, who had just taken off his shoes, leaned over to support the old master, who was obviously swaying. "Slow down. She's already back. Are you still afraid that she will run away?" "I'm not afraid that she will run away. The military academy is on break, but I didn't see her come back. You said that our little princess is on duty, but she should be able to make a phone call if she's on duty, but she doesn't even have a phone. Who is that teacher? Go back and find out for me. I must call him and tell him. When you're on duty in the army, you can still call home together on New Year's Eve. Why can't you do it in front of our little princess? Do you think that our little princess is shy, kind, and easy to bully? You have to find out which teacher it is. I have to make a phone call and tell him." Mr. Fu, who was holding on to him, did not know whether to laugh or cry when it came to the wise old man's treatment of his own granddaughter. "Dad, I haven't been home for the new year for 3 or 4 years in a row, and I haven't called home at all. I've never heard you complain like this, and you even blame the leaders for being unreasonable. Why is it that when you're in front of Jian, you're like a child and a little unreasonable?" When the old master, who had just put on his shoes, heard this, he snorted. "Of course you are different from our little princess. A good man has aspirations to travel far. How can I restrain you? But you once said that since Jane Eyre was wearing the military uniform, she had to shoulder the responsibilities of a soldier. She had to follow orders, and there was nothing special about her." Father Fu didn't argue any further. If the old master wanted to protect her, so be it. He was just being rude and unreasonable for a while. When he saw Jane Eyre, he became a wise old master again. Yi Qian already knew that the old master was playing chess with Father Fu in the chess room. She hurriedly changed her shoes and ran straight to the chess room. Chapter 3375. The door to the chess room opened, and Father Fu helped the old man out. He saw his daughter, who was as light as a little bird, running towards them. Then, Father Fu felt a force pushing his arm away. The old man, who was like a stabilizing force in the aerospace department, pushed him away. He laughed loudly and opened his arms, waiting for his little princess to come over. Father Fu, ever since his daughter came back, the respected old man became more and more like child. Of course, he also became more energetic. This is a good thing. Father Fu, who was pushed away, was not angry. He smiled and said, "Dad, you're old but strong. I was almost pushed down by you." The old man had a granddaughter and did not want a son anymore. He acted as if he did not hear anything. As he walked, he laughed and said, "Ioyo, whose family's little fairy is back. Why is she so beautiful and so energetic?" "Ioyo, isn't this our family's little fairy? Our family's little fairy is back to spend the new year with Grandpa." Huh. Father Fu, who was a step behind and carefully paying attention to the old man, paused in his steps. Little princess one moment, little fairy the next. Did the old man not pay attention to the current affairs news, national news, military news, and only watch some TV dramas? Little princess, little fairy. Don't say it was quite nice. "Grandpa, Dad, I'm back. Happy New Year, Happy New Year." After experiencing the little princess just now, the little fairy's voice was as clear as a silver bell. She did not pay attention to the old man. She only had the old man and Father Fu in her eyes. She had already thrown herself into the old man's arms, allowing the old man to gently hug his only granddaughter. "Ha ha ha! Happy New Year, Happy New Year." The old man looked at his granddaughter. The more he looked, the more he liked her. The more he looked, the more satisfied he was. "My little fairy is so energetic. She seems to have grown taller. Ha ha, not bad, not bad. She's becoming more and more beautiful." Naturally, the more he looked, the more satisfied he was with his own child. Other children would have to stand aside. Father Fu also felt that his daughter was becoming more and more beautiful. "You're finally back. If you didn't come back, my ears would have grown calluses." Usually, the new year was just like that. But this year, it was different. Without Yi Qian, who had finally returned home, the old master felt that something was wrong. Even when many of his favorite students came to visit on the first and second day of the new year, the old master did not show much interest. As for Father Fu, although he didn't say it out loud, how could he not hope for it in his heart? In order to take care of the old man, he could only bury the words in his heart and not express them. Now that his daughter had returned, the elegant Father Fu had a deep smile in his eyes. The happiness from the bottom of his heart made him look completely different. However, when he saw another young soldier, the smile in Father Fu's eyes faded a little. Good fellow. He came to their house on New Year's Day and came back with his daughter. The old master did not have time to care about what his son was thinking. He was very satisfied with Xia Jinyuan. The descendant of the old family, Xia had a good character. Seeing that he came back with his granddaughter, the old master laughed heartily. Good, good, good. It's best that both of you are back together. Now that both of you are back, I won't be able to sleep tonight. When a happy occasion happened, people were in high spirits. They were in good spirits and did not feel sleepy at all. Uncle Fu, who had just finished putting away the gifts, laughed and said, "Old chief, this Major Xia even brought a lot of gifts over. The entire trunk is full. Young Master Xia probably emptied their house. He put in a lot of effort." Chapter 3376. In order to let old Master Fu know how meticulous Xia Jinyuan's gifts were, Uncle Fu wrung a few gifts for old Master Fu to see. He wrung them with both hands. Just by looking at the product names, one could tell how meticulous the gifts were. "I'm very happy that you're here. Why did you bring gifts?" Old Master Fu did not like gifts, but when he heard Uncle Fu say that he had emptied their house, he could tell how much importance he attached to this family Xia visit. Xia Jinyuan replied respectfully, "This is the first time I wish you and Uncle a Happy New Year. It's just a small gift." "It's not just a small gift. Grandpa, these gifts were all prepared by Grandpa Xia, Grandma Xia, and Uncle Xia. He and I rushed back from overseas and reported to the military first. We didn't prepare any gifts for you and Dad. Look at me, I didn't bring anything back." Now that he was home with his closest family, Yi Qian suddenly lost his composure and became more childish. Yi Qian also had a soft sky under his tough exterior. Only her closest family members could get close to that place. Even Xia Jinyuan rarely had the chance to get close to that place. Lovers and family members were always different. They were unreserved towards their lovers, but they were naturally close to their family members. Father Fu could glean a lot of information from Yi Qian's words. 1. His daughter did not stay on duty at school. Instead, she went out with the young man in front of him. That was why she had to report to the military first. 2. Family Xia. This young man did not have time to go back to family Xia. He accompanied his daughter to the Fu family home first. He was quite thoughtful. He knew that Old Master Fu and Old Master Fu wanted Jane Eyre to go home. 3. Master Xia, Old Madam Xia, and Commander-in-Chief Xia approved of his visit. They did not mind the young man from their family visiting the Fu family home first. They were very sincere, and Old Master Fu could not find anything to complain about. Father Fu's gaze towards Xia Jinyuan softened a little. But, as a father who wanted to keep his daughter by his side for a few more years, Father Fu still felt that the kid didn't even go home. Instead, he came to their house to give his New Year's greetings. He was simply scheming. Look, they've managed to coax the old man into sitting on the sofa with one hand each, grinning from ear to ear. Uncle Fu brewed some tea and served it. Seeing that the old man was so happy, he thought for a while and walked over to Father Fu. He reminded him softly, "Old General, the Chinese medicine for soaking your feet is ready. If we wait any longer, the water will turn cold and it won't be as effective. Why don't I bring it out and let the old chief soak it while we talk?" Father Fu was concerned about the old man's health. Hearing this, he walked out with a wooden basin. Yi Qian, who was happily chatting with the old man, smelled a strong scent of Chinese medicine. The smile on his face instantly faded. Why was there such a strong smell of Chinese medicine? Grandpa's health was not good. Was he drinking Chinese medicine? It was not a good idea to ask such questions during the new year. Yi Qian resisted the urge to ask immediately. Instead, he turned his head and saw Father Fu walking over with a medium-sized wooden basin. Yi Qian's smile blossomed again. It was such a large wooden basin. It was obvious that it was used to soak feet. She knew that the old man had rheumatism in his feet and needed to recuperate. Soaking his feet in Chinese medicine was a good idea. She quickly got up and took the wooden basin from Father Fu. Father Fu did not refuse. His daughter was filial and knew that she was going home to fulfill her filial duties. There was no need for him to refuse. He smiled and reminded her, "It's a little heavy. Be careful." It was indeed a little heavy, but not for Yi Qian. He smiled and took it easily. It's much lighter than carrying a log. Chapter 33:77. She originally wanted to say it lightly, so that Father Fu would not worry, but she did not expect that when she said it, Father Fu's heart would ache. Even the male soldiers could not bear to carry the logs, but his daughter easily said it out loud. How much pain did she have to endure? Xia Jinyuan, who had been quietly observing, retracted his gaze. Just now, he was also shocked and thought that the old man was unwell. After seeing the wooden basin, he and Yi Qian quietly sighed in relief. The old man took in the subtle changes in their expressions. He gently patted the back of Xia Jinyuan's hand and said with a smile, "Grandfather is fine. It's fine. Use this medicine to soak your feet and you'll sleep better at night." She continued, "It's all thanks to your father. He had his soldiers search for wild Chinese medicine in the area around his home. They dried it, cut it, and sent it to the capital. This wild Chinese medicine is much more effective than the cultivated medicine. The effect is much better." When he heard that Commander-in-Chief Xia would also help, Xia Jinyuan decided to go back and give his father a big hug. He wanted to thank him for his help and make the old man so satisfied. As long as the old man was satisfied, his position as the grandson-in-law would be more stable. As for his future father-in-law, all fathers-in-law in the world would be equally difficult to deal with. There was no other way. After all, he was going to marry his father-in-law's sweet little jacket in the future. He was reluctant to part with it, so it was understandable that he did not like his son-in-law. Therefore, in order to make his father-in-law more satisfied with his son-in-law, he had to continue working hard. Don't mention it. My father has several soldiers who have retired from the army. Their families are all from the mountains. I heard from my father that they are not used to the arranged jobs when they go back. So a few soldiers from nearby started their own business. They specialize in pure, wild Chinese herbs. Don't worry and use it. Once you're done, I'll ask my father to arrange it for you. In order to please the old man, Comrade Xia did not hesitate to mention Commander-in-Chief Xia. There were indeed such things, but Commander-in-Chief Xia usually did not look for his soldiers because he was afraid that they would feel uncomfortable. For the sake of the old man's health, and to make the two young people's journey home easier, Commander-in-Chief Xia was just like any other parent in the world. He was willing to help his children. When the old man heard this, his interest was piqued. That's a good thing. Now that the country's military is getting stronger and stronger, we will need more and more people to join the army in the future. After joining the army, they will be out of touch with society for a few years. After they leave the army, they will not be able to adapt in all aspects. It is indeed a good idea to let the veterans start their own business, but it still needs the support of all parties. Bring it up when you go back and bring them to me. I'll introduce them to a few people and let them expand their business. This will make the veterans who start their own businesses more confident. Let them have more choices and more chances of success. This way, even if they retire, the industries they create will still contribute to the growth of the country's strength. What the old man meant by pay was the taxes of a business. Although he had been retired for so many years, the old man's mind was still focused on the country's affairs. He always paid attention to them and did his best. In this world, there would always be people who would selflessly contribute their entire lives. They didn't need to be surrounded by the limelight. They didn't even like to be exposed. They just wanted to contribute silently and work hard for their motherland. The old man and the old lady who had passed away belonged to the category of selfless scientists. Their names would not be widely spread, but they would definitely be recorded in the annals of history and be remembered forever. Chapter 3378. Xia Jinyuan listened attentively. When the old man finished speaking, he said solemnly, "It is indeed a good idea to support the veterans to start their own businesses. I will definitely pass on your words. Not everyone would succeed, but at least it would give the veterans who had difficulty finding a job another choice." The wooden basin was placed at the old man's feet. Yi Qian did not get up immediately. Instead, he rolled up the old man's trousers and carefully served him. Xia Jinyuan would not let Yi Qian serve him alone. He squatted down at the same time, and before the old man could stop him, he was already squatting down nimbly. At home, Grandpa and Grandma also like to soak their feet in Chinese medicine. Do you think my skills are good enough? The two of them squatted down together. Father Fu, who was standing, smiled wider. He looked at Xia Jinyuan with a hint of approval in his eyes. Not bad. I didn't expect family Xia to be so filial. The old man did not let Xia Jinyuan serve him. He bent down and grabbed Xia Jinyuan's arm. He said kindly, "You are our guest. You don't have to do this. Let our little princess do it." Although he was the future grandson-in-law, he could not let him enter the house to serve others. It was good enough that he had the intention. Yi Qian stopped Xia Jinyuan's outstretched hand. "You chat with my grandfather and Dad. I'll do it." Father Fu said, "Dad, sit down. Let Jane Eyre serve you." He then said to Xia Jinyuan, "It's good that you have the intention. Get up quickly." He had the intention and the ability to act. It was obvious that he was not a person who only knew how to talk. Father Fu, who was originally satisfied with Xia Jinyuan, added a few more points for his future son-in-law. Xia Jinyuan smiled. He understood the old man's intentions and did not insist. He got up and started talking to Old Master Fu and Father Fu. Yi Qian carefully rolled up the old man's trousers and lifted the towel covering the wooden basin. He reached out to test the temperature of the water. It was a little hot, but it needed to be at this temperature. With his granddaughter taking care of him, the old man was overjoyed. Xia Jinyuan lowered his gaze and watched as his girlfriend carefully took care of the old man. She had a gentle smile on her face and her gaze was so gentle that it could melt into water. Gentle, considerate, filial, smart, capable, and capable. How could he be so lucky to find her? That night, the family chatted until 11 p.m. before going to bed. The old man was actually still in good spirits, but when they were chatting, Xia Jinyuan mentioned that he and Yi Qian had gone to Guangdong province. The old man seemed to have thought of something. After chatting for a while, he said that he was tired and that they should go to bed early and continue tomorrow morning. Father Fu helped the old man go back to his room to rest. When he came out, he saw the two young people sitting on the sofa. They were still in good spirits and did not look tired at all, especially his daughter, who looked so energetic that her little face was glowing. "Aren't you sleepy after working so hard for so many days?" Father Fu walked over and smiled lovingly. "Is there anything else you want to talk to me about?" Yi Jin shifted her seat so that she was sitting next to Father Fu. She then held Father Fu's arm and said softly, "Father, I'm going to pay Grandpa Xia, Grandma Xia, and Uncle Xia a visit. Of course you have to visit them. You brought him home, so you have to send him back." Father Fu already knew what his daughter wanted to say before Yi Qian finished her sentence. It was the new year, and Master Xia and old Madam Xia thought so highly of the fact that they brought family Xia back. The Fu family could not be rude and had to visit them to visit. Chapter 3379. As the saying goes, a grown girl can't be kept at home. After breakfast tomorrow morning, I'll get the driver to send you both over. I'll represent our family to wish old master and old madam a happy new year. I won't be going with you. Your grandfather's student will be coming over tomorrow, so I have to stay to entertain the guests. You could go to family Xiao with him." As he spoke, Father Fu asked, "Will you be coming home tomorrow night?" "Tomorrow night." Yi Qian wanted to come home, but he was afraid that she wouldn't be able to. Xia Jinyuan readily answered Father Fu, "I'll send Jane Eyre home tomorrow night, but might be a little late." There were many relatives at home, and knowing that he would be bringing his girlfriend home, he was afraid that they would stay until tomorrow. Father Fu nodded. "Okay, but there's no need to come back if it's too late. We'll see how it goes tomorrow. Family Xiao, this kid is too good. I can't find any fault with him at all." Father Fu deeply regretted this. Thus, the future father-in-law and future son-in-law had a brief exchange of glances. One glared daggers at him, while the other was gentle and refined. Both of them were calm and respectful. The future father-in-law smiled and nodded, indicating that he would let him off for today. Xia Jinyuan, who had received the signal, wanted to bow to his future father-in-law and ask him to be merciful. Yi Jian did not notice the twists and turns in the conversation. She also did not know that her smart father had set a trap for her boyfriend without batting an eyelid. If Xia Jinyuan didn't answer after Father Fu finished speaking, or if he said, "Maybe she won't come back," Father Fu would make a note of it. How would he make a note of it? He would make a note of it like this: "You brat, you haven't even married my daughter yet, but you can't wait to keep my daughter in your house and not let her come back. Just wait and see. I don't believe that my daughter won't listen to me. I'll let you suffer for a few more years." If he really made a note of it, not only would Colonel Xia have a long road to pursuing his wife, but he would also have a long road to marrying her. Xia Jinyuan felt a lot of pressure when faced with such a smart father-in-law. He had to constantly be on guard against the traps set by his future father-in-law. If he wasn't careful, he would fall into a trap, which was much more stressful than his father. Looking at his girlfriend's sweet smile and contented and blissful appearance, Lieutenant Colonel Xia's lips curled up deeply. Such a beautiful and filial daughter was suddenly abducted by a man one day. If it were him, he would also feel stifled. Thinking about it, he could understand why his future father-in-law wanted to make things difficult for his future son-in-law. If he and the little fox gave birth to a beautiful and adorable daughter, the little princess in his hands, the little fairy was about to be snatched away by a stinky brat. Just wait and see. Therefore, Lieutenant Colonel Xia, who didn't have a daughter yet and had yet to settle his future father-in-law, was already starting to think about how he, as a father, would compete with his future son-in-law. After thinking about it, Yi Qian advised Father Fu to go back to his room and rest early. Dad, you go back to your room and sleep first. We'll talk tomorrow. I still have a lot to tell you. When Father Fu heard that his daughter still had a lot to tell him, even if he was smiling gently, wrinkles appeared at the corners of his eyes. You guys should rest early, too. Your Uncle Fu has just tidied up the room. He must be tired after running around for a few days. Sleep early and rest well before we go to pay New Year's greetings tomorrow. His daughter was so beautiful. When she put on her military uniform tomorrow, everyone in the family Xia would adore her. Nowadays, soldiers were not prohibited from wearing their military uniforms outside. They could wear it on normal occasions, and it was not against military discipline. Yi Qian nodded heavily. She should rest early and rest well. And tomorrow night, she would go home at night, and Captain Xiao would go home too. That would be the best of both worlds. Chapter 3380. However, she still had to talk to Xia Jinyuan. Both Grandpa Xia and Grandma Xia wanted her to go to family Xia. If she really came back tomorrow night, she didn't know if the two elders would. Would they be disappointed? She didn't want to disappoint the two elders. What should she do then? She couldn't solve this kind of problem. She had to talk to Captain Xia. She would first persuade her father to go back to his room to rest, and then discuss it with Captain Xia. Father Fu didn't say much. He smiled and rubbed his daughter's head. Rest early. I'm going back to my room to sleep. His silly daughter. She was so worried about whether or not she could go home tomorrow. Wouldn't it be better to leave this matter to the Xia family's son? What was she thinking about? Father Fu didn't remind Yi Qian. This was a matter between the two young people. They needed to understand and coordinate with each other in their careers, and it was the same for their families. Father Fu went back to his room. Yi Jian and Xia Jinyuan also went back to their own rooms. After washing up in her room, Yi Jian put on her warm pink pajamas. Her skin was steamed to the point that it looked like an eggshell that had just been peeled off. She walked out of her room and knocked on the door next door very softly. In order to take care of the old man, Father Fu and the others slept downstairs. There were only two people upstairs. Even so, when Yi Qian knocked on the door, her voice was so soft that Xia Jinyuan almost didn't hear it. Fortunately, there was a special forces soldier sleeping in the room. He was lying on the bed with a smile on his handsome face. Who knew what he was thinking about? Suddenly, he heard a soft sound like a mouse gnawing on wood. He jumped out of bed and rushed to the door to open it softly. As soon as he opened the door a crack, Yi Qian whispered like a thief, "Captain Xia, it's me." Of course, he knew it was her. He even did something he was thinking of doing just now. He ran to the room next door to find his girlfriend and used the blanket to chat. He didn't expect that the usually shy girl would beat him to it. When the door opened, Yi Qian sneaked into the room like a thief. When the door closed, she took a deep breath and patted her chest. "You scare me to death. Scare me to death. What do you have at home? So scary?" Before Xia Jinyuan could finish, his guilty girlfriend said in a low voice, "Oh no, I didn't close the door just now. I have to go and check." It was precisely because they were at home and the elders were sleeping downstairs that Yi Jian felt guilty and nervous. It was as if she had done something wrong. When Xia Jinyuan saw this, he wanted to laugh, but he had to hold it in. Otherwise, he would be beaten up. He hurriedly held her shoulders and said, "I'll go take a look. You take a breather." From her room to his room, there were only 5 steps. 1 step from her door, 3 steps to his door, and 1 step into his room. It was only 5 steps, but she was so nervous. Yi Qian was more than nervous. He waved his hand and gestured for Xia Jinyuan to go take a look. Compared to Yi Qian's nervousness, Captain Xia was much calmer. He opened the door and walked to Yi Qian's room to check if the door was closed. Then, a figure appeared in front of him and looked straight at him with a very serious gaze. That was the real problem. Looking at his future father-in-law, Xia Jinyuan pretended that he had just walked out of Yi Qian's room and pretended to close the door. Then he said to his future father-in-law, "Uncle Fu, why aren't you asleep yet? Are you looking for Jane Eyre? She just fell asleep." If she had fallen asleep, she wouldn't have gone to Yi Qian's room to hide the fact that Yi Qian was in his room at that moment. Father Fu replied coldly in his heart, "Rascal, I was about to fall asleep just now." I didn't know he came out of his daughter's room in the middle of the night. Chapter 33:81. Instead of sleeping, he went to his daughter's room in the middle of the night. Father Fu looked at Xia Jinyuan from head to toe with a sharp gaze. He wanted to see if the fellow he had caught coming out of his daughter's room was up to something else. At this moment, Xia Jinyuan, who was always calm, was secretly glad. He was glad that Yi Qian had said that she had forgotten to close the door. Otherwise, if Father Fu came knocking and found that Yi Qian was not around, Xia Jinyuan would be worried. Father Fu, who still had a slight smile on his face, had finished looking at Xia Jinyuan. Seeing that he was dressed neatly and without any mess, he felt slightly better. Judging from the time they took to go upstairs, the two of them did not have much time. He was also wearing the slippers in the bedroom, so it was obvious that he had taken a shower before going to find his daughter. Judging from the time, it would take at most a good night kiss. Seeing that there was still a small gap in the door next door, Father Fu's tightly pressed lips slowly relaxed. He could understand that there was a little intimacy between young couples. Understanding was one thing, but in his heart, he was going to make a mental note of it. How dare he play tricks in their house? Good fellow, aren't you a little too bold? Xia Jinyuan walked over calmly. He felt guilty that he had not been caught. He was very calm and did not look like he had done anything wrong. The truth was, he did not do anything wrong. Father Fu looked at the young man who had questioned him as he walked closer. The corners of his mouth moved slightly. There will be a lot of guests at home tomorrow morning. You two should get up early and visit old Master Fu and Grandma Fu early. To think that he had given the rascal some points just now. He regretted it. What points? 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 They were all in the negative now. Yi Qian's return to the Fu family was not made public. It was still a secret. When there were many guests tomorrow morning, and they saw that there was suddenly a beautiful couple in old Master Fu's house, they might not think too much about the fact that Yi Qian was old Master Fu's granddaughter, but they would at least ask about it. Since there was no need for too many people to know about this secret, it was better to avoid it. Xia Jinyuan noticed that his future father-in-law's expression was a little cold, but he did not intend to look for Yi Qian in the room. Frightened, he calmed himself down and replied calmly, "Okay, Uncle Fu, what time does the old gentleman usually get up? Let's go back to the family Xia after we're done with breakfast. You can get up at 7 and leave at 8. Mr. Fu finished the words in one breath and pointed at the room next door. Go back to your room and rest early. After he finished speaking, he did not leave and supervised the rascal who had barged into his daughter's room. Xia Jinyuan was stunned by Father Fu's serious expression. Seeing that Father Fu would not leave until he saw him back to his room, Xia Jinyuan bowed politely and said, "Good night." Then he went back to his room. Inside the room, Yi Qian could hear everything clearly because the door was not closed tightly. When she heard Father Fu's voice, her first reaction was to run to the window and push it open. She was about to climb out of the window to get back to her room. Her long and slender legs stepped onto the windowsill and slowly lowered. It was useless to push open the window here. The window in her room was tightly shut. Even if she climbed out, she would not be able to get back to her room. Yi Qian, who was afraid that Father Fu would check on her, was so nervous that cold sweat broke out on her back. She held her breath in the room. Yi Qian, who was sweating profusely, tiptoed behind the door and listened carefully. When she heard Father Fu say, "Go back to your room and rest early," her heart was in her throat. She was afraid that Father Fu would ask Xia Jinyuan to go back to his room to rest while he went to her room himself. Chapter 33:82. When he realized that his daughter wasn't in the room, the scene, Yi Qian clawed at the wall, so nervous that he almost tore the wallpaper. He even held his breath, not daring to breathe. He was afraid that Father Fu would knock on the door, so he could only hope that Xia Jinyuan would hold Father Fu back. When he heard the familiar footsteps approaching, Yi Qian held his breath and waited for Xia Jinyuan to return to the room safely. Xia Jinyuan pushed the door open, closed it, and locked it from the inside. Father Fu didn't leave immediately, even though he heard the click of the lock from outside. When he saw that Xia Jinyuan had returned to the room and locked the door, Father Fu turned around and went downstairs. Father Fu turned around, and the faint smile on his face disappeared. He walked down the stairs expressionlessly. In the future, he would never let that family Xia kid stay over at home again. Never. Who knew if he would sneak into his daughter's room again? Sneaking into his daughter's room in the middle of the night? Does he want to marry his daughter as soon as possible? No way. He had just acknowledged his daughter, so he had to keep her for a few more years. Tomorrow, he had to have a good chat with his daughter. She wasn't in a hurry to get married. She had to stay at home and be a little princess and fairy for a few more years. After she got married, Father Fu got more jealous the more he thought about it. His little princess and fairy had been cheated away by that brat. Father Fu's heart was still filled with jealousy when they returned to the room. In the room, Xia Jinyuan saw that his girlfriend behind the door was so nervous that the tip of her nose was sweating. He couldn't help but laugh. Just as he was about to speak, Yi Qian covered his mouth and stared at him with his clear eyes, warning him not to speak. She had just taken a shower, so there was a faint fragrance on her body. As he held her hand, his nose was filled with her sweet and soft scent. He lowered his gaze slightly and saw that her face was like a hibiscus due to the heat. She was so delicate that she looked like a dewy flower, exuding a faint fragrance that could make one's heart sway. He couldn't help but pick her up. Instantly, Xia Jinyuan, who had been holding back his words, looked a little gloomy. After a while, Yi Qian said weakly, "My dad left. He was so nervous that he was about to faint." Xia Jinyuan grabbed his girlfriend's soft waist and pulled her into his arms. He let Yi Qian, who was so guilty that he couldn't even stand properly, lean into his embrace. He smiled and sighed. "You don't have to be so nervous. Even if my father-in-law really wants to make things difficult for you, he wouldn't bear to make things difficult for you. He would only think that a bad guy like me seduced his daughter and caused her to suffer." Yi Qian's legs were so weak that she had to lean into his embrace to support herself. Even her voice was trembling as she replied, "My dad can't bear to make things difficult for me, but I can't bear to make him angry either." "Little fool, Dad won't be angry. He just can't bear to see such a beautiful and kind daughter being taken away by a wolf so early. Go to bed and rest for a while. Look at you. You're so scared that you're sweating all over. Don't be nervous. If something really happens, I'll take care of it. Moreover, both our families know about our relationship, so there's no need to be afraid. We didn't do anything bad." Fortunately, they didn't do anything bad. If they did, she would lose sleep tonight. Yi Qian lifted her head from his embrace and said with lingering fear, "If I had known, I wouldn't have come. It won't be too late to tell you tomorrow." "Ha ha ha, since you're here now, tell me what you have to say." Xia Jinyuan, who was secretly happy, wrapped his arms around Yi Qian's slender waist. He looked at her gently and said, "It must be something urgent. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come." Yi Jian, who had caught her breath, nodded her head. She wanted to get out of his arms and talk to him. However, as soon as she moved, Xia Jinyuan suddenly picked her up and lifted her up. She could clearly feel that her chest had rubbed against his chin. Chapter 3383. Yi Qian reacted quickly and placed his hands on Xia Jingran's shoulders. He was already very close to Xia Jingran, so that she could feel more comfortable. "Go lie down on the bed and talk," he said. Yi Qian quickly shook his head. No, let's sit down and talk." If they really laid down on the bed, who knew what would happen? In the past, he liked to do something to her. Thinking about the few times they had laid down on the bed together, even if it was just a few times, Yi Qian felt that there was something wrong with it. Xia Jingran was well aware of what it was. But this time, he really wouldn't do anything rash. What if his smart future father-in-law came back? Xia Jinyuan thought about how his future father-in-law couldn't smile when he was outside, but he still squeezed out a faint smile. What if his future father-in-law came back and found out that he was bullying the little princess of the Fu family? It would be impossible for him to bring the little princess back to the family Xia tomorrow. For the sake of tomorrow, for the sake of a long time, and for the sake of coaxing his father-in-law, Xia Jinyuan really just wanted to sleep with his girlfriend tonight and chat. What a simple thought. Unfortunately, Yi Qian didn't believe him. Xia Jinyuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I really won't. This is your house, not outside. How would I dare? There's nothing you don't dare to do. Also, my father isn't an ordinary person. You have to be careful that he comes back to check on you. Who asked him to catch you just now? That's right. A daughter knew her father best. Father Fu, who was still lying on the bed downstairs, suddenly lifted the blanket and took off his shoes. He was afraid that he would disturb old Master Fu, so he deliberately walked softly back to the second floor. This time, Father Fu didn't knock on Yi Qian's door. Instead, he knocked on the door of the brat's room that he was especially worried about. Knock, 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 knock. Yi Qian, who refused to lie on the bed and chat with him, heard the knock on the door. He jumped out of Xia Jinyuan's arms as if he was struck by lightning. His speed was amazing. Yi Qian's dark eyes widened as he jumped out. The expression on his little face was indescribable. Xia Jinyuan, whose arms were suddenly empty, was speechless. As expected, his future father-in-law turned around and attacked him. Xia Jinyuan looked at the quilt, which was so neat that there was not a single wrinkle on it. For the second time tonight, he secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, he didn't carry the little fox to the bed. Fortunately, he didn't touch the bedding. Fortunately, the little fox knew that her future father-in-law's skills were superior. Fortunately, she was cautious enough. Fortunately, tonight was safe and sound. Xia Jinyuan heaved a sigh of relief when his future father-in-law came to check on him. Yi Qian took a deep breath, then another deep breath, and another deep breath. His voice trembled as he said, "I'll go. You stand there." At this moment, it was best for her to open the door. She was so scared that she almost had a heart attack. As she walked, she adjusted her breathing and opened the door. Then, she asked in surprise, "Dad, you are looking for Captain Xia?" When the door opened, his daughter's little face appeared. Father Fu was shocked. Why was his daughter the one who ran into the little brat's room first? At that time, Father Fu's mood was as if his whole body was soaked in a huge vat full of flavors. That mood, Sai. Why aren't you asleep? Father Fu was as gentle as a spring breeze when facing his daughter. He asked kindly, "Is there anything else at night? We're all home. If it's not something urgent in the army, it's not too late to talk about it tomorrow. I vaguely heard you talking to Captain Xia just now. I was afraid something might have happened, so I came over to ask Captain Xia." Yi Qian maintained his normal tone and said indifferently, "Tomorrow, he and I will wake up early and go to Family Xia around 8. So he came over to ask about something." Chapter 3384. Oh, by the way, there will be a lot of guests at home tomorrow. You could go to family vacation with him earlier. Father Fu turned sideways. "Go back to your room and rest. I still have a few questions to ask him." Xia Jinyuan also walked over and stood beside Yi Qian. He smiled and said, "I was a little too loud just now and woke her up. The bed was a little wrinkled, but it was still very neat. I still have to go in and take a look," Father Fu thought to himself. Father Fu was worried sick about his little darling not being taken advantage of. Just like before, he watched Yi Qian go back to his room. Then, Father Fu walked into the guest room and glanced at the bed. Yes, it was very neat. He turned around and said, "Go back tomorrow and ask Commander-in-Chief Xia about the progress of the case involving Jane Eyre and I. I haven't been in contact with your father for a long time, so I'm not sure about the progress of the case. I can't say anything in front of the old master, so I can only talk to you in private. Don't worry, I'll understand the details from my father tomorrow and report back to you. Okay, rest early." Father Fu didn't have anything else to say, so he nodded and turned around to leave. He walked to the door and stopped. "If it's really too late tomorrow night, I'll come and pick up Jane Eyre. You should spend time with your family." He was worried, too worried. How could he dare to let his little princess and little fairy stay over for family vacation? He was too worried. Without waiting for Xia Jinyuan to reply, Father Fu closed the door and left. He didn't give the little brat who made his heart bubble with jealousy a chance to speak. At 5 o'clock the next day, Yi Jian, whose biological clock was set, did not get up immediately. The old man would only get up at around 5:30. She stayed in bed until 5:30. After washing up, she knocked on the door next door, but heard the old man's laughter coming from downstairs. Yi Qian didn't even need to knock on the door and went straight downstairs. Downstairs, Xia Jinyuan had been chatting with the old man for nearly half an hour. His humorous and mature words made the old man laugh nonstop. He looked at Xia Jinyuan with affection, as if he was looking at his own grandson. This grandson-in-law was not bad. Yu Sheng said that he still needed to wait and see. There were many young and outstanding grandchildren in Dangue Garden who were still single, so there was no need to settle down immediately. In addition, they had just reunited with their family's little princess and little fairy, so they should stay for a few more years and observe their family xia while they were at it. What old Six said was not wrong. However, it was better for the elders to not interfere in their affairs and let nature take its course. The old man, who had gone through all kinds of hardships, had an open mind and a pair of wise eyes to look at everything. When it came to people, he did not differentiate them based on their background. He was truly as calm and steady as a mountain. With Xia Jinyuan around, the Fu family had a real reunion dinner this morning. Father Fu, who had been preparing breakfast in the kitchen for the second half of the night, made a sumptuous feast. At the dining table, the old man, who was in a good mood, had a small glass of red wine. At 8 o'clock, Xia Jinyuan drove home with Yi Qian and promised the old man that he would send the little princess and little fairy of the Fu family home tonight. Then, the old man's laughter rang out again. As for Father Fu sent him off with a smile. Only when they came back would they truly come back. What he said now didn't count. As for Family Xia was very lively. Xia Jinyuan had no choice but to call Family Xia at 5 o'clock in the morning and say that he would leave Dangue Garden at around 8 o'clock to bring his girlfriend home to pay a New Year's visit to the elders. The phone call caused the Xia family to explode. The relatives who came to visit the old mansion only had one thought. They could finally meet old Six's mysterious girlfriend. Chapter 3385. Early in the morning, even before the sun had risen, the family Xia mansion was already bustling with noise and excitement. The family Xia mansion, which was usually unoccupied, was lit up. Everyone was preparing to welcome their future family Xia granddaughter-in-law. Old Madam, whose eyebrows were full of smiles, said to Old Master Sheng, "Old Fifth didn't bring back a girlfriend for the two of us, which made us happy. Now that we have Old Sixth, my cheeks are sore from laughing, but my heart is happy." Among her grandchildren, Old Madam favored Xia Jinyuan, who didn't have a mother to dote on him since he was young. Now that she was too lazy to worry about her son, she focused all her attention on Xia Jinyuan. Old Master Xia took a sip of the nourishing tea and sat on the Kong bed with a smile. "You've been waiting for this moment. You've been laughing from 5 to 6. You've been laughing for an hour without stopping. How can your cheeks not be sore?" Back then, when she found out that her most beloved grandson had found a girlfriend and that the girl was so good that even her granddaughter, Yi Wei, praised her and said that Sixth brother had his eyes set on the girl and had been waiting for her for several years, Old Madam was so happy that she looked forward to meeting her granddaughter-in-law. Later, she found out that the girl was still young at that time, and Sixth brother didn't dare to make a move. When the girl entered high school, Sixth brother, this naughty guy, began to make a move. Later on, the girl was just a short time away from graduating from high school, but they already confirmed their relationship. His granddaughter, Yi Wei, was the one who vaguely told her family about these things. Later, Xin Hui, Commander-in-Chief Xia, came back and said that he had seen the girl. Although she was young, she was calm and sincere. He was very satisfied with her. After Old Madam heard this, not only did she not feel relieved, she became worried. Thinking about how his wife would nag from time to time, Old Master Xia still found it funny. At that time, when you heard Xan say that his wife was indeed good, your face changed color. As he spoke, the old man burst into laughter. Old Madam also remembered what he had been nagging at that time and couldn't help but laugh. How can I not be worried? Xin Hui doesn't even have good taste when choosing women. When he came back, he told me that old Six's girlfriend was not bad. At that time, my heart instantly sank. Don't tell me that our son and I have the same taste. Both of us are not very good. Tell me, how can I not worry? I owe you. Luckily, I'm tight-lipped and don't meddle in the affairs of the younger generation. Otherwise, I owe, old man, whatever I said to you in private, you'd better keep it to yourself. You're not allowed to say it out loud. Do you hear me? When I was your father, he married a daughter-in-law who couldn't take care of the family. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. Now, with his judgment, he says that the girl that sixth brother chose is not bad. How can I be at ease? I can't rest assured. Previously, I didn't look forward to meeting my future granddaughter-in-law. But when I came back and mentioned it, I looked forward to meeting her as soon as possible. If it doesn't happen, I can't let sixth brother make the same mistake as his father. No matter what, I have to be strong for once and stop sixth brother from bringing her into the family. When it came to important matters, the silver-haired old madam's expression became serious. She suddenly had the aura of a minister in the past. She placed her hands on the short table that was placed on top of the tea. Don't say a single word about it. Old man, remember this. Old Master Xia, who was also in a good mood, sipped the hot tea and listened to the music of the capital. He replied unhurriedly, I won't say a single word about what you said. My granddaughter-in-law is not bad. She's a descendant of the Fu family. That's amazing. At this time, the family can't be a burden. Chapter 3386. Master Xia would never do such a stupid thing as pushing his granddaughter-in-law to someone else. Old Madam was relieved. Then, he started to chat with the old man. Lao Wu, that guy, is blinded by business. Today, he changed girlfriends, and tomorrow, he will change girlfriends again. I heard from Jean, that Lao Wu has a relationship with a celebrity in Harbor City. Just thinking about it makes my head hurt. When Jiazi said he wanted to do business, I stopped him. He said that he's grown up and can't be controlled by his mother. So I didn't stop him and didn't follow in his brother's footsteps. Now, he has raised a grandson that I have to worry about. Tell me, back then, my son made me tremble in fear. I was afraid that he would cause trouble. Now, my son's grandson still makes me worry. When sixth brother comes back, I'll get him to talk to fifth brother and persuade him to calm down. Jiazi, also known as Xia Jiazi, was old madam's second son. Because he was the second son, it was more difficult when she was pregnant. Coincidentally, he was not at the right age. Xia Jiazi almost did not survive when he was born. Later, we finally recovered. His health was not very good. Therefore, old madam spoiled him more than her three sons. It was only after her youngest daughter, Xia Sujuan, was born that things improved slightly. Xia Jiazi was a businessman, and his business was extraordinarily big. He had properties both at home and abroad. Now, he was involved in all kinds of industries. His son was a few years older than Xia Jinyuan. Xia Yunin, who was the fifth in the family, loved to do business like his father. He also didn't follow the path of his older brothers. When he was still in high school, he was already doing business with Xia Jiazi everywhere. He was only 29 years old this year and was also a famous eligible bachelor in the capital. He was a bachelor in the capital, Harbor City, and the Bay. He was handsome, rich, and elegant. He didn't have the shrewdness of a businessman and was elegant. How could he not be attractive? It was precisely because he was too attractive that old madam was worried. Fortunately, Xia Yunin was a womanizer. As long as he returned to the capital, he didn't have any women by his side. He went home clean to accompany old Master Xia and old Madam Xia. The two elders talked about their son and grandson and quietly waited for the granddaughter-in-law they were particularly satisfied with to come over. Outside, the younger generation all sat together. It was so lively that they needed to sit at two tables. It was rare that everyone was present this year. For example, Xiao Lingxiao's family of three, who was the eldest, and Xia Yiding's family of three, followed their mother and father, who was old Master Xia's eldest son, National Defense Minister Xia Angua, back to the old house. Second, Uncle Xia Onbong's wife and eldest daughter Xia Yiwei's family of four, and eldest son Xia Yujing's family of three also returned to the old mansion for the new year. Xia Yujing was the fourth in the family, so Xia Jinyuan had to call him fourth brother. Commander-in-Chief Xia was a little lonely. He was all alone, but he was carrying a child in each hand. They were all great-grandchildren. Her youngest uncle, Xia Jiaza, flew abroad every day. This year, he was angered by his second son, Xia Yanin, who was ranked fifth in the family. When he found out that his second son had returned to the old mansion, he immediately put aside a big business deal and rushed back. But when he saw his third eldest son, Xia Yui's family of three, he was so happy that he only cared about holding his grandson. How could he have time to care about his shameless son? Aunt Xia Sujuan and her husband returned home on the second day of the new year. Her son, Zhou Yiqin, and daughter, Zhou Yijin, gathered at the old mansion. When they found out that her nephew, Old Sixth, was bringing his girlfriend back, they were so happy that they said to her husband, "Don't be. When the time comes, Old Sixth will get married earlier than Old Fifth. Little brother will have a lot to worry about." Chapter 33:87. Houzi, who was carrying a baby, said to Xia Yiwei, who was also carrying a baby in her arms, "Sixth brother and his wife came back just in time. Our son and daughter can finally return to our arms." Xia Yiwei gave birth to twins and became the mascot of Family Xia. Everyone wanted to carry them, but there were many people in the family. Even if they wanted to carry the twins, they had to line up. The family of four came back from the southern province for the new year, and the twins could only be carried by their parents at night when they went to bed. It was obvious how much Family Xia loved them. As for Houzi, he loved his daughter to the point of obsession. He could let anyone carry his son, but as for his daughter, he couldn't wait to carry her 24/7. It was fine if he didn't carry his son when he returned to the family home, but he didn't even get to carry his daughter. Houzi felt bitter. Fortunately, it was finally over. It was no wonder that Family Xia loved to carry their daughters. The main reason was that Family Xia's daughters were too precious. Only Xia Yiwei gave birth to a daughter, and the rest of her family were all sons. Ever since the elders found out that Xia Yiwei was pregnant with twins, they had secretly wished for a daughter. Later, Xia Yiwei went into labor and gave birth to a son first. The elders who had been guarding the letter all this time were worried that the second child would be a boy. When the nurse reported the good news and said that she had given birth to a daughter, the elders couldn't wait to fly to Nan province to see the only daughter of their grandchildren. The Xia family didn't care about the boys. The Xia family's daughter was the real golden child. Even the grandmother was so happy when she hugged her granddaughter that the nurse kept looking at her. Xia Yiwei carried her son and glanced at her husband. She said to her son, "Your father has suffered these few days. Let's ignore him. It's fine if my son ignores me. I don't rely on him to support me. My wife and daughter care about me. That's enough." Houzi disdainfully glanced at his son. Before he could retract his gaze, his wife, Xia Yiwei, glared daggers at him. Instantly, Houzi, who was quite arrogant in front of his son, smiled and said, "You have to care about your son too? You have to care about your son too." Xia Yiwei rolled her eyes at him. She didn't know what was wrong with him. He clearly loved his son very much, but his words and actions were full of disdain. Those who didn't know better would think that his son wasn't his biological son. Although the fifth brother, Xia Yanin, wasn't married, it didn't prevent him from holding a 3- or 4-year-old child in his arms. This child was the third brother, Xia Yui's son. He was born with delicate features and had inherited his parents' excellent genes. Xia Yanin held him as if he was holding his own son, his face full of kindness. After teasing his nephew, he said to Xia Yiwei, "Sis, when sixth brother comes back, he will receive so many red packets that his hands will go numb. When I want to see my father, my mother prepared a stack of US dollars. My father said that it was too shabby. He also said that sixth brother likes to do surprise attacks, so he wasn't prepared." As an elder who casually gave a set to his future niece-in-law, Uncle Xia Jiaza was never stingy with his family. Money and a house were nothing to him. He just needed to say a word. Uncle and Annie prepared US dollars, and my mother prepared a set of jade jewelry. Just now, she was whispering to me that she had a few sets of jade jewelry in the old mansion. Otherwise, she would have embarrassed herself in front of my niece-in-law today. Xia Yunin gasped. Any piece of jade in second aunt's hands was worth a lot of money. Now that she took out a set, Xia Yunin asked softly, a 4-piece set or a 5-piece set? Xia Yue, who was holding a piece of rice cake to tease her son, didn't even look up. She smiled and said, "It's the new year. Of course, it has to be an auspicious number. Our Daodu's grandmother prepared a 6-piece set for 6th aunt." Chapter 3388. Xia Yunin clutched his chest and asked, "Sis, do you think it's too late for me to go out and grab a girlfriend?" "It's too late. You're already much later than 6th brother." Xia Yue finally looked up and gave her brother a comforting look. "Now you're regretting it, right? It's good that you're regretting it. Be good in the future and don't stuff everything into your arms. Learn from 6th brother." When little Yi was still a junior high school student, 6th brother already kept a close eye on him. Later on, when he needed to, he took action. He's much better than you. Xia Yunin felt that compared to the news of second aunt's 6-piece jade jewelry set, this news was truly shocking. It almost made him throw his nephew to the ground. Xia Yue, who was sitting next to him, heard his son giggle and turn his head to look. He happened to see 4th brother quickly pick up his son who was about to fall to the ground. Xia Yue looked away indifferently and continued to let his silly brother carry the child for him. In family Xia, boys had this kind of status. From the eldest, Xia Lingxiao, to the 6th, Xia Jinyuan, the 6 brothers were all like this in their parents' eyes. Later on, Xia Jinyuan was forced to leave because of Madame Zhao's insistence. Hence, old madam, old master, and the elders doted on him. Xia Yue turned his head and said to his wife, "5th brother has been different from all of us since he was young. His IQ is obviously not on the same level. Now that 6th brother brings home a wife, we'll be jealous that 6th brother and his girlfriend are in love and are a couple." Brothers ridiculed each other, and fathers ridiculed their sons. Both were one of the fine traditions of family Xia. When her husband ridiculed her brother-in-law, the wife only glanced at him indifferently and ignored him. She continued to talk to her sister-in-law. Xia Yue, who was ignored by his wife, tugged on her sleeve. He heard her point to the empty table next to them and said, "Can you 5 brothers sit at the table next to them? Do you have to squeeze together?" He then said to Xia Lingxiao's wife, "Sister-in-law, let eldest brother go over too. If the 5 brothers come over, we won't even have room to raise our hands." After 3rd brother's wife spoke, eldest brothers, 2nd brothers, and 4th brother's wives all spoke up. "Xia Lingtan, you're already a division-level cadre. Why are you still squeezing with me? Hurry up and sit over there. Xia Yiding, don't pretend to be asleep. I couldn't sleep last night because of your snoring. I'm not sleepy now, so why are you pretending to be sleepy? Hurry and go with big brother. Xia Yue, don't pretend to tease your son. Old 5 was in your arms just now, but I didn't see you holding him. Hurry up and go with old 5. Leave me alone. Xia Yujing, learn from big brother, 2nd brother, and 3rd brother. Stop pretending you didn't hear me." Chapter 3389. Therefore, from Xia Lingxiao to Xia Yujing, they all looked at the first traitor. "Traitor, how shameless!" They sat down temporarily and decided to observe the situation. The brothers pretended that they didn't hear or see anything. They continued to sit together with their wives and chatted merrily. Xia Yunin, who did not have a wife to accompany him, smiled and carried his nephew. She said to the 4 brothers who were still sitting there, "Brother-in-law is lonely. I'll go and accompany him." The 2nd traitor was about to lose the base. "Retreat? Retreat. Okay. Together. Retreat." The 4 brothers exchanged glances. There was a shameless traitor among them. If they did not retreat now, the consequences would be unimaginable. They made a prompt decision to retreat. Soon, the sound of chairs being moved could be heard. The 4 men from family Xia stood up and said, "It's a little crowded. We ate too much breakfast just now. It's hard to digest if it's too crowded. Let's go. Sit next to us." The men from family Xia, who were all serious outside, smiled and found a way out for themselves. They obediently sat at the table next to them. The eldest sister-in-law was afraid that Xia Lingxiao would sit over again, so she moved the chair next to her and said to the other sisters-in-law, "Move away, in case they squeeze over again." No wonder old madam and old master went back to their room to rest after breakfast. They must be tired seeing them like children who haven't been weaned. My father-in-law and mother-in-law went back to their room to prepare a greeting gift for sixth brother's wife. We didn't prepare enough, so we'll just use red packets. It's our country's tradition to give red packets during the new year. We can't go wrong with tradition. Set the number 2. Everyone has one number. Okay, it's best to use one number. I brought red packets with me. Come one by one. I'll wrap them up now. I was worried just now and wanted to discuss with the sisters-in-law how big the red packet should be. Now it's all the same. There's no need to worry. The sisters-in-law, who could not carry their children with their bags, took the red packets prepared by fourth brother's wife and took out cash from their bags to give each yin a greeting gift. Family Xia's men never interfered with family matters. The financial power was also in the hands of their wives. The few of them ate and lived in the army, so they didn't spend much money at all. All of the daughters-in-law he married were good at managing the household. They were gentle, dignified, and tactful. The old madam often sighed, wondering how Commander-in-Chief Xia had made such a mistake. When the men at the next table saw this, they all sighed at old Sixth's wife's good luck. They had not gathered together for the new year for 6 years. This year, they had made an appointment to return to the old mansion one after another on the 29th and 30th of the new year. Only then did they know that the brothers had all rushed back to the old mansion for the new year. It had been 6 years since the reunion new year, and sixth brother hadn't managed to catch up with it. Last time, my dad told me that little brother's girlfriend is the prettiest of all the sisters-in-law. I was so scared that I didn't even dare to bring my girlfriend along for fear of embarrassing myself. When little brother and the others come back, I must take a good look at how pretty my sister-in-law is. As soon as fifth brother Xia Yunin finished speaking, fourth brother Xia Yujing knocked on his head. Your sisters-in-law are sitting next door. You're asking for a beating, aren't you? It was my dad who said that, not me. After being knocked on the head, fifth brother felt that he couldn't continue living like this. He was despised everywhere he went. Fourth brother hit him for me too. Third brother Xia Yui, who was also fifth brother Xia Yunin's biological brother, calmly used others to teach his younger brother how to speak. Pretty? Which of his sisters-in-law wasn't pretty? Chapter 3390. Father was an elder. It was fine if an elder said something, but fifth brother dared to say it too? He even said it in front of them. He deserved a beating. Xia Yunin, who had picked up her nephew, was heartbroken. She scolded her brother for his crime. Are there any brothers like you? I only said what my father said. I didn't say it myself. Why did you take turns to beat me? At the same time, she stuffed her nephew back into his father's arms. I'm not carrying him. Carry him yourself. Xia Yui took his son, turned sideways, and placed him on the ground. He said to his son, Little Bean, go play with Grandpa and Grandma. Also, go to the back room to accompany Old Master and Old Madam. Xia Yui, who was at a missile base in the northwest with Father Fu, put down his son, who was nicknamed Little Bean, and coaxed him to leave. He continued to sit there, glancing at the child's mother from time to time. Xia Yunin, who had been tricked by her brother, quickly complained to her sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, brother is being a hands-off boss again. How dare he? With a shout, Xia Yui picked up his son at lightning speed. He was really going to go find his grandparents. The 4-year-old Little Bean refused. He would come and go as he pleased. It hurt his self-esteem. Family Xia's children were all smart. Although Little Bean was only 4 years old, he was a little mischievous. He said directly to his father, I don't want you to carry me. I want to go find Grandpa and Grandma. The eldest, Xia Lingxiao, raised his voice and said to his 10-year-old son, who was playing in the snow outside the house, Xiaoyu, come and play snowman with your younger brother. The children who were laughing just now seemed to have been hit on their acupoints to mute. It was quiet outside the house. When the servants who were watching the children outside saw this, They couldn't help but laugh. When the old butler saw this, he smiled even more. Looking at the old master's great-grandchildren was like looking at the eldest young master's generation. In the blink of an eye, the eldest young master had become grandpa and grandma. How fast the days passed. Every generation of the family Xia was strong, and when it came to the little young master's generation, every one of them was smart and quick-witted. They were so delicate that they wished they could hug them in their arms every day. The older children outside were afraid that the adults in the house would ask them to take the little ones to play, so they quickly ran to the back garden to play. When the old housekeeper saw this, he immediately let the younger servants follow them to prevent the golden jade dolls from bumping into each other. After the children left the front yard, the old butler smiled and stood there for a while before walking to the backyard. Everything was prepared at home. It was a pity that firecrackers could not be set off. Otherwise, he would have blown up the firecrackers to welcome the newlyweds home. Later on, Xia Jinyuan's eldest uncle, second uncle, youngest uncle, and aunt hurriedly prepared their gifts and asked Commander-in-Chief Xia to look through them and see if he had any good suggestions. Commander-in-Chief Xia, who had also prepared a greeting gift, laughed out loud when he saw this. "This is amazing. Sixth brother and his wife are back. What a great harvest. They went from being poor peasants to being rich." Every big red envelope was stuffed to the brim and couldn't be closed. It was full of new banknotes. A big red envelope stuffed to the brim was worth at least 20,000 yuan. Two of each family gave 8 red envelopes. Youngest uncle's family was the most well-off. Youngest aunt used a red sandalwood box to store a set of 6 jade ornaments. Commander-in-Chief Xia said that it was too expensive, but youngest aunt said, "It's not expensive. I've given them to the first 4 wives, and I'll give them to sixth brother as well. We can't be biased. I'll take it. We can't refuse gifts from our elders. How can we refuse? Listen to eldest aunt. We can't leave out sixth brother's wife." Xia Jinyuan's eldest aunt persuaded in a soft and gentle voice. Just by listening to her voice, one could tell that she was a kind elder. Chapter 3391. Little Aunt was much more straightforward. She herself was a businesswoman and never hesitated to give anything to the younger generation in her family. She was especially generous. She also said, "Third brother, this is for me. You can't make the decision for sixth brother's family. Sister-in-law already said that we can't refuse gifts from our elders. We have to accept them." The immediate family members were all busy, including the uncles who came to give their New Year greetings to Old Master Yi and Old Madam Yi. They gave each other a big red packet. When everyone met with red packets in their pockets, even Old Madam Yi and Old Master Yi knew that Six Brothers' family would be tired of receiving red packets today. The house was bustling with noise and excitement. Everyone was waiting for Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian to return. They received the letter at 5 o'clock a.m. At 5:30 a.m., the whole family, including the twins in their arms, woke up to welcome the newlyweds. In the car, after Yi Qian heard about the family Xia's elders who were at the Yi family residence, her hand went to the car door lock. Was it too late to get out of the car now? They were all there. Besides eldest uncle's family, second uncle's family, youngest uncle's family, Annie's family, there were also 2 uncles' families. After doing the math, Yi Qian felt like she was about to faint. Based on a family of 5, there would be 40 people in total from 8 families. What's more, it wasn't just a family of 5. Yi Qian said in a trembling voice, "Captain Xia, you have a lot of relatives." There were too many of them. There were so many of them. Xia Jinyuan, who was used to the hustle and bustle of the new year at home, comforted Yi Qian. It's okay. There are so many people at the ancestral home. I can't even call out the names of some of my cousins." Needless to say, she probably didn't even know the names of her cousin's descendants. Yi Qian felt her calves start to tremble. This wasn't considered a lot. There were so many of them at the ancestral home. Family Xia was indeed a big family. It was so big that it made her flinch. Could she not go? Be good. They're all waiting for us to come back. I can't not go. How could Xiao Jinyuan not know what his girlfriend was thinking? Now that they were almost at the door, it was too late for regrets. Last night, when he was on the phone with his family, he could vaguely hear that there were many relatives around old Madam. This morning, after he specially called to confirm how many relatives were there, Lieutenant Colonel Xia decided not to tell his girlfriend immediately. Based on his understanding of his girlfriend, if she knew that there were many relatives at home, she would not even be willing to step out of the Fu family. And as long as she showed the slightest hint that she didn't want to go out, her future father-in-law would definitely make it so that she didn't want to go out at all. Xia Jinyuan knew Yi Qian very well. Therefore, he waited until they were halfway through the journey before he mentioned to Yi Qian that he had a lot of relatives. Grandpa and Grandma have been waiting for you to come home with me. Last time, she told me that she must introduce her favorite granddaughter-in-law to her family after the new year. Little Fox, you can't bear to disappoint her, right? When Xia Jinyuan mentioned the elderly, Yi Qian could only surrender. She didn't say that she had to go home. She was just a little timid. Since she had promised the elderly and was so considerate, how could she do anything that would make them sad? The car drove past the alley. After a few hundred meters, the high walls of Family Xia's ancestral home could be seen. The wide and open door was already open. The car drove in from the side. The servant who had been guarding the door immediately reported, "They're here. They're here. Go and welcome them." Old Madam, who was sitting in the main hall, was so happy that she got down from her chair. She wanted to go and welcome them personally, but eldest aunt laughed and said, "Mom, if you go and welcome them personally, old Madam will feel embarrassed. Let them go. They will all be sisters-in-law in the future. It's good to get to know each other early." Chapter 3392. Eldest aunt was very considerate and knew that Madame Fu liked Six Brothers' girlfriend very much. However, she also knew from youngest uncle that the girl was shy and polite. Although she was a little reserved in front of the elders, she still spoke naturally and gracefully. She was a good girl who knew how to behave. The Fu family was small in number, so the girl probably had never seen a family Xiao welcome her. The whole family crowded around her to welcome her. Of course, the intention of the family Xiao was good, but they were afraid that the girl would be embarrassed. Therefore, they persuaded her carefully. Madame Fu nodded and gently patted her eldest daughter-in-law, who was supporting her arm. She smiled and said, "You're so thoughtful. Six Brothers' wife is shy. I was a little worried that she wouldn't be able to control Six Brother." Commander-in-Chief Xia said, "Mom, you don't have to worry about that. Although Xiao Yi is shy, she is a very principled person. Sixth Brother may be impudent in front of others, but in front of Xiao Yi, he's just like his brothers." When Madame Fu heard this, she exclaimed softly and laughed so hard that she couldn't straighten her back. I remember what Sixth Brother told me before. He said that eldest brother, second brother, third brother, and fourth brother are not as powerful as they are outside. When they come home, they are afraid of their wives. If he finds a wife in the future, she will have to be afraid of him. Oh my, I really believed him. In the end, he's just like his brothers. I'm going to ask him later if he's afraid of Xiao Yi, or if Xiao Yi is afraid of him. When Madame Fu teased her grandson, the elders all laughed. It was normal for Sixth Brother to say those things in the past. Even they thought that Sixth Brother was more mischievous than his brothers in the family. He was also the most strong-willed one among them. Who knew that he was the same deep down? Family Xia was really strong. It was passed down from generation to generation. Looking at the girl in their arms who was being coaxed and the boy who was being thrown into the snow, it was no wonder that men with family Xiao were a little afraid of their wives. They had been raised like this since they were young. Soon, the four sisters-in-law and five brothers came out to welcome Yi Qian. Xia Jinyuan parked the car at the entrance and asked the helper to drive it into the garage. He then held Yi Qian's hand and walked through the vermilion gate. Yi Qian's hands were a little cold. Before she got out of the car, she had even mentally prepared herself. She felt that she wasn't that nervous even when she was on the battlefield. "Don't worry, I'm here for you. The elders are all very gentle, just like my dad. You've seen youngest uncle. He likes to give you houses, cars, and money. Youngest aunt is the same. Money is not money in their hands. Later, youngest uncle and youngest aunt will give you money. Take it. Eldest uncle and eldest aunt are also very easygoing. When eldest uncle is outside, other people obey his arrangements. When he's at home, he only obeys eldest aunt's arrangements. You know what happened to second uncle? Second aunt is also very kind. When I was young, I loved second aunt's cooking the most. I even told second aunt that I wanted to be her son. In the end, I was beaten up by fourth brother. He said that not only did I eat and steal his food, but I also wanted to steal his mother. It was an unforgivable crime. After he beat me up, I turned around and told second uncle and second aunt. Fourth brother was beaten up that day. Aunt is more serious. She just looks serious. When I was young, she liked to secretly take me out to play. The first time I touched a car, it was Aunt who took me out. I was only 11 years old then. Later, Aunt was severely scolded by old madam. From then on, she took me out to play even more secretly. Uncle is the principal of the industry university. He's very refined and reasonable to everyone. Old master said that uncle is the least like a soldier in our family. He has never seen a soldier who doesn't like to use his fists but likes to use his mouth. He started off as an instructor, and he's always walked the path of literature. Chapter 3393. Seeing that Yi Qian was still a little nervous, Xia Jinyuan couldn't help but slow down his footsteps. His reserved voice was gentle as he said, I have 5 brothers upstairs. I won't introduce them too much. You'll know when you see them. They had already walked through the red lacquered door and passed through the wild goose-wing shadow wall. After Xia Jinyuan finished introducing his 5 brothers, Yi Qian saw a row of people walking in front of her. She had already begun to see them and was already nervous. Yi Qian couldn't help but hold Xia Jinyuan's hand tightly. At this moment, he was her only support. She couldn't be blamed for being nervous. She didn't have that many relatives in her 2 lifetimes, so she also had stage fright. Family Xia had 5 brothers. Even the 5th brother, Xia Yanin, who was a businessman, was a man with a strong aura. Most young ladies from prestigious families would keep quiet out of fear in front of them. They wouldn't even dare to raise their heads, let alone speak. Yi Qian was already doing well. Although she was nervous, she looked calm and composed on the outside. She had an aura that was unique to her. The man in the lead had sharp features. Probably because he rarely smiled, the corners of his mouth were pursed tightly, making him look even more serious. Even though he was dressed casually, Yi Qian could tell that he was a soldier. He was Captain Xia's eldest brother and was also the youngest division commander. The National University of Science and Technology even introduced him. Yi Qian's heartbeat was a little unstable. The person who was holding her hand tightly held her hand, transmitting a warm and powerful force. He whispered to her, When you're at home, there are no superiors or subordinates. We're all family. You don't have to care about your status outside. Yi Qian swallowed slightly and nodded subtly, indicating that she would do her best. She looked at the other men who were equally outstanding. All of them were handsome and had an extraordinary aura. Other than the young man who looked similar to her youngest uncle, who had an elegant temperament and wasn't a soldier, the other 4 men were dressed casually and gave off a strong military aura. Family Xia was originally a family of nobles and soldiers. They had an unshakable position in the capital. Other than the youngest one, the other 4 were accompanied by a gentle and graceful woman. Just like her, their hands were tightly held, as if they were afraid that they would slip on the snow. Each and every one of them was charming and had an outstanding temperament. Yi Qian could already feel that she was easy to get along with even before they spoke. Sister-in-law. In his heart, Yi Qian was already calling her sister-in-law. What else could he call her? Following the way Captain Xia addressed him, there was no mistake. In the blink of an eye, the 2 groups of people got closer and closer. Yi Jian secretly looked at her brothers and sisters-in-law of the Xia family. At the same time, the men and daughters-in-law of the Xia family were also secretly looking at their future sisters-in-law. 3rd brother Xia Yui had seen Yi Qian once before, so he wasn't that surprised. As for the others, It was their first time meeting Yi Qian. When they first saw Yi Qian, they felt that she was still in junior high school. Old Six had already started to have ideas. It wasn't unreasonable. Her eyes were clear and beautiful. Her eyes were like water. Her facial features were beautiful, and she had a smile on her face. She was indeed good-looking. Old fifth brother Xia Yunin felt that all the celebrities and young ladies he had dated before were just randomly picked up from the roadside. Compared to old sixth girlfriend, they were simply a far cry. He deeply despised his previous judgment. He had to raise his standards for choosing a spouse. The sisters-in-law were no less surprised than their husbands. Old Six was indeed Old Six. He was smart since he was young, and he was still so smart now that he had found a girlfriend. Her appearance, figure, and temperament were all good. Chapter 3394. And his skin, didn't they say that he was a military school student? Didn't they say that he had to train hard every day? Didn't they say that he would never stop being exposed to the elements? Why was his skin so tender and fair? Even his skin glowed softly under the snow. Women looked at other women differently. They usually paid attention to appearance and figure first, followed by temperament. Temperament. Yi Qian had started his military career in the second semester of his second year of junior high school and had been tempered by war. The temperament of a soldier was ingrained in his bones and could be seen in his every move. Just like a man from family Xia who joined the military, it was difficult to hide his military temperament, even if he wore casual clothes. The Fu family tested Xia Jinyuan, and similarly, Xia Jinyuan's 5 older brothers would also test Yi Qian. If he didn't even have the guts to speak to them, then 6 brothers' taste was mediocre. As they got closer, Xia Lingxiao spoke on behalf of the family. Xiao Yi, Happy New Year. I'm your eldest brother, Xia Lingxiao. It's nice to meet you. Yi Qian reached out and shook Xia Lingxiao's hand gently. He smiled and said, Happy New Year, big brother. I'm Yi Qian. Hello, Xiao Yi. I'm your sister-in-law. If 6th brother bullies you in the future, just come to me. I'll stand up for you. His sister-in-law reached out with a gentle smile and voice. His second brother, Xia Yiding, had always had a low presence in the family. His occupation was even more special than Xia Jinyuan's. On the outside, he was an engineer in the National Defense Information Network, but in reality, his job was to prevent the domestic network from being hacked and, at the same time, to prevent hackers from invading the country. His special occupation allowed him to reduce his presence at any time. He reached out his hand and said calmly, Second brother, Xia Yiding, if 6th brother does anything wrong, I can teach him. Forget it. You spend all your time on the computer. You only have time to teach computer skills. Second sister-in-law secretly pinched her husband's arm and smiled at Yi Qian. Just listen to your second brother's words. Second sister-in-law's words are much more useful than your second brother's. If 6th brother does anything wrong in the future, second sister-in-law will teach him. After saying that, she blinked and pretended to speak in a low voice, but everyone could hear her as she imparted her insights to Yi Qian. Men with family xia are the type who need to be taught a lesson. They'll be obedient after a few lessons. Lao Lu is the most dishonest, so you can do your best to teach him a lesson. Even old madam will clap her hands and praise you. Men with family xia were too smart. Smart people tended to make mistakes easily. They needed a strong and principled wife to control them. When necessary, they could use force to solve the problem. Then, 3rd brother, Xia Yui, and 4th brother, Xia Yujing, introduced themselves to his wife. They said the same thing as eldest brother and second brother, telling Yi Qian how to teach Xia Jinyuan a lesson. When it was 5th brother's turn to speak, Xia Yunin sighed. He sighed until the corners of Yi Qian's eyes twitched. He then said, Xiao Yi, your appearance has suddenly raised my standards for finding a girlfriend. It's already difficult to find a considerate girlfriend. Now, I'm really worried I'll be single for the rest of my life. The man who was elegant and proper just a moment ago had transformed into a humorous and playboy man. Yi Qian couldn't help but look at Xia Jinyuan. The two of them were quite similar. Other than the fact that Captain Xia didn't have the playboy vibe, he had the yuppie vibe. Xia Jinyuan pulled Yi Qian into his arms and lifted his chin slightly. He said to Lao Wu, "The models and celebrities you found are all good. You can continue next time. There's no need to raise your standards. Taste determines everything and can't be changed." Chapter 3395. Yi Qian's intuition was indeed very sharp. Xia Yunin and Xia Jinyuan were about the same age, so they liked to play together when they were young. When they grew up, they even went to the same high school. Therefore, they were the two closest to each other among the six brothers. They liked to play together the most and liked to expose each other's dirty secrets the most. However, today was different. Xia Yunin wanted to expose Xia Jinyuan's dirty secrets, but she had to hold it in. When she heard Yi Qian's words, she held back the words that were about to rush out of her throat and smiled elegantly. "I'm just accumulating experience so that I can find you a good sister-in-law in the future. I'm not like you, who can find such a good girlfriend in one go." Yi Qian couldn't help but smile. On the other side, the brothers couldn't stand how thick-skinned Yi Qian was. When the sister-in-law saw Yi Qian smile without any expression of disgust, she knew that she wasn't at ease. Since Yi Qian had been in the business world for a long time, it was inevitable that he would be tainted with the scent of a prostitute. As a family, there was no need to hold back when talking. After all, everyone knew about Yi Qian's romantic past. However, Xiaoyu was different. It would be bad if she left a bad impression on Yi Qian when meeting Yi Qian for the first time. However, Yi Qian's expression didn't change. When he smiled with pursed lips, there was a look of understanding in his clear eyes. He even glanced at Xia Jinyuan with a smile, which made the sister-in-law instantly feel relieved. She was a clever person. She could tell at a glance that Yi Qian and Yi Qian were similar in temperament. They were both rascals with a bad taste in their mouths. Since they had met and spoken, it was time to go back to the house. The sister-in-law smiled at Yi Qian and said, "Let's go in first. Old Six, quickly go in with Xiaoyi. Old Madam and Old Master can't wait any longer." Xia Jinyuan held Yi Qian's hand tightly. Through his dry palm, he could feel that the sweat in her palm had mostly dissipated. After meeting with his brothers and sister-in-law for a short time, his little fox was starting to get used to it. His little fox's ability to adapt had always been very strong. She would become stronger when facing a strong opponent. She was the calmest and messiest little fellow. Even on the battlefield where life and death were uncertain, she was fearless. She was no longer afraid of life and death. What else could be difficult for her? What else could make her hesitate? "Let's go. Let's pay a New Year's greeting to Grandpa, Grandma, and the elders." He lowered his head and spoke in a soft and gentle voice. It was warm and reassuring. As always, it gave Yi Qian the strength to face him with courage. Yi Qian raised her eyes and looked at him with bright eyes. She smiled and nodded. She was not as flustered as she was in the car. Since she was here, she should take things as they came. Besides, he was here with her. Even if she was careless, he would make up for it. Thinking about it, she felt that there was no need to panic. Furthermore, this was not the first time they had met. As a Special Forces soldier with strong mental fortitude, she was able to ignore the panic she felt when she first heard that she would be meeting about 40 to 50 family Xia relatives today. When she really had to face them, she was able to face them calmly. When the elders of family Xia who had never met Yi Qian before mentioned Old Six wife in the future, they would say, "Beautiful and intelligent, calm and generous. She has the strength of character and the bearing of a phoenix." This was the first time Old Six uncle, Xia Onghua, had seen Yi Qian's wife. Seeing that they were about to reach the main house, the brothers and their wives all tacitly fell back half a step, allowing Xia Jinyuan to lead Yi Qian into the main house first. When Old Madam saw Yi Qian walk in, the smile on her face deepened. She then looked at her grandson, who was carefully holding his girlfriend's hand as they entered the house. Seeing his happy face, she thought to herself, "Oh my, he even said that he would marry a wife who was only afraid of him in the future. Look at him, he was even better than his brothers." Chapter 3396. Family Xia was led by Uncle Xiaongwa. Their gazes had already landed on Yi Qian the moment he stepped into the house. Although they were sizing him up, they were exceptionally gentle and did not give Yi Qian any pressure at all. Although they did not give Yi Qian any pressure, suddenly being stared at by dozens of people, Yi Qian, who had gradually calmed down, could not help but feel his heart tighten uncontrollably. Eldest uncle and eldest aunt are sitting at the front. Second aunt is sitting at the bottom. You've already met youngest uncle. Youngest aunt will definitely give you a big gift later. Take it. Old madam must have seen it. Don't feel pressured. Take it. This is my aunt's family. Isn't it very serious? In fact, it's not serious at all. It's very adventurous. It's still the same now. She knows how to drive motorboats, speedboats, and airplanes. She used to be a pilot in the army. Uncle is the principal of the engineering school. Cousin Zhou Yiqin is a teacher in command of the school. Cousin Zhou Yijin is in charge of the Nangguang military region. Over there are my two uncles and aunts, along with two older cousins. Look, there aren't many of them, right? Xia Jinyuan had already introduced them to Yi Qian when he stepped into the house. But Yi Qian did not dare to look at them like that. Her heart tightened, and her face was a little red. She did not know which family was which. She only knew that she was the source of all the attention at this moment. Don't panic, Yi Qian. Stay calm. Stay calm. In her heart, Yi Qian mentally prepared herself with every step she took. With every step she took, her breathing became a little deeper. She maintained a gentle smile on her face all the way until she greeted old madam and old Master Xia. Her clear voice was natural and dignified. It was normal to hear that she was a little nervous. How could she not be nervous when she was suddenly being stared at by so many relatives of the man? However, she was not timid. Her smile was very appropriate. The piercingly cold military aura on her body was very imposing, a little. Eldest Uncle Xiaongwa and the two uncles narrowed their eyes slightly. Sixth brother had a murderous aura about him, as if he had been on the battlefield. As a military academy student, he had already been on a real bloody battlefield. No wonder the father-in-law was so satisfied with his daughter-in-law. Sixth brother was a soldier who often went to the battlefield. His military career was one of the most dangerous jobs among all his brothers. Similarly, if he didn't find a wife with a strong psychological quality, it would be impossible for him to survive. Now look what happened. He actually found a girlfriend who had also been on the battlefield. Her eyes were clear, and her expression was optimistic. Although she was nervous in the face of so many relatives sizing her up, she was calm. Sixth brother's taste. Yes, it was much better than his father's. Uncle Xiaongwa immediately leaned over and said to Commander-in-Chief Xia, "Sixth brother has good taste, much better than you. We have to let old Six treat old Mister's granddaughter well. You really can't find another girl as good as her in the entire capital?" Her eyes were clear, and her expression was open-minded. She did not have the piercingly cold aura of a soldier. She did have the piercingly cold aura of a soldier, but she did not have the same killing intent as old Sixth. After all, there were very few female soldiers on the battlefield. There were also female soldiers who had been on the battlefield like old Sixth, but old Sixth didn't like them. Old Sixth liked them, and old madam and old master were satisfied. There was only one such girl. Commander-in-Chief Xia had been used to saying that his son had good taste, and by the way, he would say better taste than his father. He smiled lightly and said, "The pupil is better than the master. As a son, naturally, he has better taste than his father." "You are telling the truth." Uncle Xia nodded and said with certainty, "You finally admit that you have bad taste." Chapter 3397. Commander-in-Chief Xia was speechless. He was already so old and already had a grandson in his arms. Why did he still like to tease him? Meanwhile, youngest aunt also said to youngest uncle, "Sixth brother is so lucky. This kid has been hard to fool since he was young. He's so naughty that no one could find fault with him. I told you years ago that sixth brother would be a successful man in the future. Look, he brought his girlfriend back. He has good taste. On the other hand, second aunt knew about Yi Qian from her daughter, Xia Yue. Every time her daughter mentioned sixth brother's girlfriend, her eyes were filled with satisfaction. Even her son-in-law, Ho Zi, would say that sixth brother's girlfriend was very good. Now that they met, wasn't it great? Meanwhile, Yi Qian, who had just finished paying New Year's greetings to old Madam and old Master Xia, was holding two heavy red packets. She didn't even have the chance to reject them. Xia Jinyuan accepted them and directly stuffed them into his pocket. New Year's red packets. Grandpa and Grandma wish you two a long and happy relationship. Before accepting the red packets, old Madam and old Master Xia said these auspicious words. Then, a very heavy red packet appeared in their hands. Keep it well. You all have one. Sixth brother used to love the new year the most. As long as it was the new year, all the red packets would go in, but not out. You should check his account later. After so many years, just the red packets alone probably have a considerable amount. Remember to accept his red packets. Old Madam reminded with a smile. Men with family poverty shouldn't have private savings. Your older brothers are the same. The older brothers silently looked away. Old Madam was wise. Xia Jinyuan was smarter and immediately replied, "Don't worry. That's all the money I saved for my wife. Of course, I'll keep it for my wife." The older brothers silently looked at sixth brother, who was so good at coaxing his girlfriend. "Kid, later I'll have to tell little Yi that you used to say that you must make your wife afraid of you." Although Lieutenant Colonel Xia managed to coax his girlfriend, he also got himself into trouble. Old Madam was so amused by her favorite grandson that she was about to cry. She said to her sons and daughters-in-law beside her, "You guys are so well prepared. It's exactly what sixth brother wanted. He'll be able to save up a large sum of money for his wife this year." When he was young, every time he received a red packet, he would say, "This is my private stash." A man needs to have a private stash to be confident in front of his wife. He didn't know where he heard it from, but when he was 5 or 6 years old, he knew that a man needed to have a private stash. Now, it had become the money he used to save for his wife. She didn't expose him either. She couldn't drag him down on such a good day. As for Yi Qian, he first received the old madam's and old master's red packets. Following that, eldest uncle's and second uncle's families also gave him the same amount of red packets. It was not just one red packet per family, but 2 red packets per family. They couldn't even hold onto the red packets in their hands. They couldn't possibly learn from the thick-skinned Captain Xia and put them all into their pockets. As the father, Commander-in-Chief, Xia naturally had to give 1 red packet per family. When he gave the red packets, he didn't look like a commander-in-chief at all. He looked like an ordinary, loving father. Yi Qian even saw tears in the commander-in-chief's eyes when he nodded and said, "Okay." Xia Jinyuan also saw it. He said to Commander-in-Chief Xia, "Dad, when you go fishing in the future, you'll have another daughter to accompany you." Commander-in-Chief Xia, whose eyes were no longer watery, smiled and replied, "Yes, with a daughter, you don't have to come anymore. I'm happy today, so I won't argue with you." It wasn't easy for Lieutenant Colonel Xia to be moved, but in the face of his old man's usual disdain, he decided to let it go for the sake of the good days. When the family saw this, they couldn't help but laugh and shake their heads. Chapter 3398. Sixth brother and his father were really natural enemies. In front of his father, he despised his son and never said anything nice. But behind his back, he was very satisfied. Forget it, all men with family Xia were the same. Not only was sixth brother's father like this, but the other fathers were also like this. Yi Qian had seen the different interactions between the father and son, so he was not surprised at all. When it was second aunt's turn, she took out a seemingly expensive wooden box carved with the words, "Magpie announcing good news" on the front, peony blooming on both sides, and an auspicious beast on the top. Yi Qian really didn't know what to do this time. Just looking at the box made of unknown would already made her feel that it was expensive. What was inside? Yi Qian did not know what to do. Second aunt smiled and said, "This is a small gift from me. Your sisters-in-law and the others all have it. Old Madam said that you should have what they have. We can't favor one and discriminate against the other. Come, 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 come. Take it, take it. Seeing that Yi Qian did not know what to do, second aunt handed it to Xia Jinyuan. It's not easy for Xiao Yi to take it. Take it for her and give it to Xiao Yi when we get back to her room. Xia Jinyuan reached out and took it calmly. How can I not accept second aunt's gift? Don't worry. I'll give it to her when we get home. I won't take it for myself. Do you dare? Little aunt asked with a smile. Xia Jinyuan smiled. No, I don't dare. Give it to Jane Eyre. It was not a matter of whether he dared or not, but was it really okay to accept so much? When they reached Little Aunt, she asked Yi Qian what he was interested in. Yi Qian blurted out, I'm interested in flying tanks and planes. She was really interested. Otherwise, she would not have asked to fly a fighter jet after winning. Uncle laughed. Sukuin, you found a common interest. Our daughter doesn't dare, but Sixth Brother's wife does. You won't have to worry about not being able to find a partner in the future. Little Aunt Xia Sujuan smiled and nodded. She said amiably to Yi Qian, when you return to the capital during the holidays, Auntie will take you to fly a plane. Auntie, she wants to fly a fighter jet, not a civilian jet, Xia Jinyuan explained on behalf of Yi Qian. Xia Sujuan looked regretful. That won't do. You'll have to work hard to achieve it. Mom, if Aunt Lu can't fly a fighter jet, then you can teach Aunt Lu how to fly a civilian plane. Zhou Yijin, who had been waiting for Yi Qian to come over, finally found a chance to interrupt. She smiled at Yi Qian and said, Aunt Lu, my mom is very good. If you can't fly a fighter jet, you can learn how to fly a civilian jet from my mom. I guarantee that you'll be able to master it. Aunt Lu, faced with the new nickname Yi Qian, she felt a little embarrassed. She hadn't married Captain Xia yet, but she had suddenly become Aunt Lu. Xia Jinyuan liked it very much. He gave his cousin a look of approval. Yijin is right. Let your Aunt Lu learn with you in the future. Lao Lu, you'll make her very scared. She doesn't dare to learn herself, so she hopes that Lu Sa will learn it so that she won't be my mother's target. Zhou Yiqin smiled and exposed Zhou Yijin's lie. He was also a brother who would easily set up his sister. Zhou Yijin wrinkled her nose and glared at her brother. She smiled sweetly at Yi Qian and said, Aunt Lu, you're so beautiful. After you learn how to fly a plane with my mom, you'll be handsome and beautiful. Your Aunt Lu is already handsome and beautiful. Later, Sixth Brother will give you a big red packet. Thank you, Sixth Brother. You're welcome. Just take care of your Aunt Lu in the future. Xia Jinyuan, who was holding the wooden box, didn't forget to find a backer for Yi Qian. In the future, when Yi Qian returned to the Fu family, it would be good to have another peer who could walk around the capital. But first, he had to think about how to transfer Yijin from the Nangguang military base back to the capital. Xia Jinyuan thought that when his uncle finished paying his New Year's greetings, the two of them would have to hold on to the red packets they received. For the first time, Yi Qian felt that it was easy to worry about money. Chapter 3399. Money was no different from a hot potato in her hands. Her hands were strong enough to carry logs and machine guns, but the red packets were getting heavier and heavier. It was getting more and more difficult for her to carry them. However, the man beside her said shamelessly, if I had known, I would have brought a bag with me so that I could put the red packets in it. When the time comes, I can just open the bag and go straight to the bank. It's so convenient. Embarrassed Yi Qian. People with family Xia didn't seem to care about trifles. Sometimes, even the old madam could joke with the younger generation. She was as young as an 18-year-old. Xia Yiwei, who was carrying her son, smiled and joked, Come, 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 Xiao Yi. This is a small gift from your brother-in-law and I. Since Laolu specially told me to take good care of you, I knew what Laolu was thinking. This guy, since young, as long as he has set his mind on something, he will do everything to get what he wants. But I really didn't expect him to be able to endure for so many years. It's obvious that he really cares about you. He won't marry anyone else but you. Jean Wawa, who was in her arms, seemed to know that her mother was happy. She clapped her hands and laughed. She even giggled at Yi Qian. She wasn't afraid of strangers at all. When Xia Yiwei saw this, she wanted to directly stuff the child into Yi Qian's arms. Ho Zi, who was beside them, reacted quickly. She carried her son with one hand and stopped her with the other. She doesn't have extra arms to carry. Let Lao Lu and his wife carry her later. Let's strive to give birth to a pair of twins. Yi Qian knew that Xia Yiwei gave birth to a pair of twins, but she had never seen them. Now that she saw them, the two children were wearing the same color clothes and hats. Even the shoes on their feet were exactly the same. At first glance, it was really hard to tell who was a girl and who was a boy. At this moment, Jin Wawa, who was in Xia Yiwei's arms, suddenly giggled at her. Yi Qian also laughed. If it weren't for the red packets given by the elders, she really wanted to hug the small and soft child. Aya, our Bubble likes Annie. Let Annie hug you later. When little Aunt saw this, she couldn't help but laugh and teased. In the future, little Aunt should hug Boo Boo more. When you give birth to a pair of twins, it will be lively. Yi Qian's ears turned red when he heard this. She hadn't even married into the family, but she was already calling her Aunt Lu and little Aunt. Then it was time to give birth to twins. When she came to Family Xia to pay her New Year's greetings, her identity changed layer by layer. She almost thought that she was really married and pregnant with twins. She blushed, but Xia Jinyuan did not feel embarrassed at all. He even smiled and said, "Since the elders are looking forward to it, I will work hard and live up to their expectations." Yi Qian couldn't hold it in any longer. He lifted his foot and ruthlessly stomped on his foot. Who asked him to spout nonsense? Who asked him to spout nonsense? Her ears turned red. Xia Yiwei, who was closest to her, was the first to notice. Fortunately, she was holding the child and did not look down to see Yi Qian's little movements. She laughed and said to the elders, "Auntie, if you continue to tease us, our newlywed will go back to his room and not dare to come out. You're blushing. Ha ha ha. Xiao Yi, you'll get used to it. Our family likes to be like this. Don't be shy." The benevolent old madam helped Yi Qian out of the situation. "Do you think Xiao Yi is like you? Don't scare Xiao Yi. Otherwise, our sixth brother will be heartbroken." While helping Yi Qian out of the situation, she did not forget to tease her grandson. Xia Jinyuan was immune to all kinds of poison. He allowed the elders to tease him and did not feel uncomfortable at all. The conversation continued. Chapter 3400. Yi Qian finally understood why Xia Jinyuan was so thick-skinned. Other than his family background, it was also because of the teachings of his elders. If he was constantly teased by his elders, no matter how thin-skinned he was, his skin would grow thicker day by day until it was as thick as a city wall. Knowing that his girlfriend was thin-skinned, Xia Jinyuan didn't want to embarrass Yi Qian any further. He greeted all the relatives, paid his New Year's greetings, and said a few words to Old Madam and Old Master Xia before taking Yi Qian straight to his room. After the beautiful couple left, Zhou Yijin laughed in a crisp voice and said, "Aunt Lu is so beautiful. Brother Six has struck gold. I didn't expect you to find such a beautiful and capable sister-in-law. You only see Aunt Lu's beauty, and you don't see anyone else beside her?" Xia Sujuan asked her daughter with a serious face. "Your Aunt Lu's beauty is secondary. With your innate qualities, you're destined to be unable to compete. You might as well compete with your innate qualities. Perhaps you'll be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with Aunt Lu." Zhou Yijin raised her hand to her mouth and made a zipper gesture, indicating that she shouldn't speak and should shut up obediently from now on. She wouldn't speak or interrupt. Her mother was really something. Two unrelated things could become one in her mouth. If she continued to speak, she would only make things difficult for herself. Moreover, she knew what her mother would say next. Xia Sujuan really did want to say a few words, but Commander-in-Chief Xia laughed and said, "Yijin's innate qualities are already outstanding enough. However, Yijin, don't listen to your mother about competing with your innate qualities so that you can stand shoulder to shoulder with Aunt Lu. We have to learn how to play to our strengths and avoid our weaknesses. We have to work hard to avoid our weaknesses and continue to develop our strengths. That's good enough. Uncle, do you mean that Aunt Lou and I don't even have a chance of competing with each other? Joey Jean asked with a bitter face. Do you really want me to tell you the truth? That's right, he really didn't. With Aunt Lou's talent, even your sixth brother has to admit defeat. You'd better listen to Uncle's advice. Don't compete with your Aunt Lou in terms of talent. Commander-in-Chief Xiao advised his niece with a smile. Just do what you are now. Very good. Uncle is still the best. That's right, I'll just be myself. Mom, you want me to be like Aunt Lou. If one day I become someone like Aunt Lou, which man do you think is worthy of me? So, in order to let you hold your grandson, please let me be myself. As soon as Joey Jean finished speaking, the elders all laughed loudly. This girl didn't know any shame at all. Don't you know shame? You didn't even bring me a boyfriend. You even said that you're going to let me hold my grandchild. Go and play with your nephews. Xia Sujuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her daughter's straight back and shameless words. You're not young anymore. You're 3 years older than your Aunt Lou. When are you going to bring me a boyfriend? Don't become an old girl who can't get married. Then I'll have to consider whether I should acknowledge you as my daughter who can't even trick a boyfriend. Needless to say, she was really afraid that her daughter would become more and more powerful in the future. With such a weird personality, she was really worried that she wouldn't be able to find a boyfriend. Uncle Zhou looked at his daughter with a doting expression. No matter how outstanding other girls were, they were still other girls. His daughter was the most outstanding one in his parents' hearts. Sixth brother's wife was indeed not bad. Her eyes were like a clear breeze and bright moon. At first glance, she could make people feel that this child was open-minded and upright. She was a very good daughter. Chapter 34:01. However, the best daughter was also someone else's. Uncle Zhou saw his daughter's carefree and charming appearance. When she smiled, her eyes curved like the moon and exuded a spiritual aura. Uncle Zhou felt that his daughter was the best. He smiled and said, "Your mother is teasing you. If you really stand side by side with Aunt Lou one day, your mother and I will worry about which man will dare to marry you. You have to know that it takes a lot of courage to marry you now. You should stay as you are. At least, you can make a man have the courage to marry you. I'm afraid that when the time comes, you will become more and more powerful, and my son-in-law won't even have the courage to marry you. While you are still young, hurry up and trick an honest boyfriend to come back for me, your mother, the old madam, and the old master to see." Uncle Zhou was naturally on the same side as his wife. He knew that his wife was just saying it, but he knew what she was thinking. Joey Jean felt that something was wrong with her father's words. Why did he say that his daughter would scare a man to the point that he didn't even have the courage to marry her? Also, did she still need to lie? The female soldiers in the communications company were very attractive. Did she still need to lie? She could hook her finger, and her suitors could line up in a row. Did she need to lie? However, she couldn't say this anymore. If she continued, she would become the target of all the elders' scolding. She had to quickly save herself. In order to let herself escape as soon as possible, Joey Jean looked at her own brother with a faint smile amidst another wave of laughter from the elders. Joey Chen, who had been silent all this time because he was afraid that the flames of war would spread to him, suddenly felt a deep sense of malice from his sister. Joey Jean saw that he was looking at her with vigilance. She winked playfully and said in a clear voice, "Uncle, Aunt, you should hurry up and urge my brother to find a marriage. He is only half a year younger than Brother Six, and Brother Six already has a girlfriend. My brother is still living in the single dormitory in school. TSK, 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 how pitiful." He knew that it was best to stay silent in this kind of situation. Therefore, he kept silent all this time, afraid that the flames of urging him to find a girlfriend would burn him. In the end, he was tricked by his own sister. He wasn't afraid of being tricked. Wasn't there still someone else? Thus, Joey Chen looked at Xia Yanin, who was about to sneak away, and said loudly, "Brother Five, if you find a girlfriend, I will immediately find a girlfriend and bring her back." Xia Yanin, who had already stepped out of the door. Turning his head, Junyan held a shallow smile. gently and elegantly welcoming the gazes of all the elders. "Sorry, there's something going on in the company. I need to make a phone call to deal with it." As he spoke, he waved the phone in his hand, indicating that he had been on the phone the whole time and had no idea what they were talking about. Little Uncle Xia Jiazi snorted heavily. "If he dares to bring a random girl home, I will teach you a lesson." Some time ago, Xia Yunin went to Harbor City to discuss business. The media there reported that the girl he was dating was the daughter of a famous jeweler in Harbor City. Because Xia Yunin didn't announce her family background to the public, the media in Harbor City directly wrote in bold black font that a toad wants to eat swan meat. Toad, Xia Yunin became a pretty boy who only had a passable face and a small family fortune and wanted to go to Harbor City to marry a rich girl. Little Uncle Xia Jiazi happened to pass by Harbor City's airport that day and accidentally saw the news that occupied a large page of the entertainment section. He was so angry that he almost had a heart attack. Chapter 3402. A toad? A gigolo who flirted with a rich girl? How dare he embarrass their family Xia? He didn't like that rich girl at all. Xia Yunin didn't accomplish anything. Even her appearance was modified. How could Xia Jiazi not be angry when he was involved in a scandal with such a woman? He was so angry that his hands trembled on the spot. Xia Yunin pretended not to hear her father's cold voice. She pretended that she was still answering the phone and walked out of the main room calmly. If you often walk by the river, how could your shoes not get wet? He was also tricked by that woman. He didn't know where this woman found out about his identity. She had bribed the biggest gossip magazine in Harbor City and even occupied a page of it. If he hadn't acted quickly and suppressed the news in less than 3 hours, the matter would have continued to ferment. The elders sitting there all knew that Lao Wu had found an excuse to slip away. They couldn't help but smile and shake their heads. Eldest Aunt smiled and sighed. At that time, we all thought that Lao Lu would be the most worrisome in the future. Who knew that it would be Lao Wu? Uncle, don't worry. Lao Wu is different from the other brothers. Shanghai is a big dye vat. Lao Wu has no choice. It'll be fine when he calms down. Take it slow. Yes, except that Lao Wu didn't bring back a girl for us. What else can't he do? Next year, try to let him bring back a girlfriend. Lao Lu this year, Lao Wu next year, Lao Chen the year after. There will be new people coming back every year. It will be more lively every year. Although the old lady sometimes didn't like Lao Wu's mistresses, she had to protect her grandson. Youngest aunt was open-minded and didn't care about these things at all. She smiled and said, "The old lady still cares about Lao Wu." I think so too. It's his father who worries about nothing. I don't expect him to bring back a lovely girl like Lao Lu's wife. I just hope that he can bring back a dignified daughter-in-law who is good at running the family. Why don't I ask Lao Lu's wife later and see if she has any good girls to introduce? Those who could be on good terms with Lao Lu's wife are definitely good girls from good families. When Xiaoyi entered the door just now, I like her pair of watery eyes. You can tell whether a person is good or bad with just one look. Xiaoyi's eyes are clear and bright. With one look, I can tell that she's a dignified girl. It's rare for her to be so calm. She came in together with old Six. The two of them are a perfect match. Young Annie helped Lao Wu out of his predicament and brought the topic back to Yi Qian. At the mention of Yi Qian, everyone in the family Xia couldn't help but nod and praise him. First, Uncle Xiaong was said, "She's beautiful and intelligent, calm and generous. She has the strength of character and the bearing of a phoenix." Not bad indeed. It's sixth brother's fortune to be able to find her. It's also our family Xia's fortune. Even the old master nodded. That's right. It's our family Xia's good fortune. Also, Xiaoye's background is a little complicated. Just keep it to yourself and don't tell anyone. All the elders in the family Xia knew that Yi Qian was old Master Fu's granddaughter. They couldn't help but sigh. Although old Master Fu's granddaughter had been exposed to the outside world for almost 20 years, she was still so outstanding. It was clear that the Fu family was not afraid of anything. No matter how bad the environment was, she could still grow up healthily and become a talent. Her brothers and sisters-in-law couldn't help but sigh. They didn't expect their sixth sister-in-law to have lived such a difficult life when she was young. It was quite amazing that she was able to stay true to herself even after such a hard life. She quietly listened to the elders talk and occasionally said a few words to herself. The house was lively and prosperous. After the great-grandchildren saw their Aunt Lou, they all went to the front of the house to play in the snow. Because they liked to play with snow, they didn't clean the snow in front of the house and left it for the great-grandchildren to play with. Chapter 34:03. When it came to educating children, Family Xia always respected the children's own ideas and never forced the adult suggestions. Only when the children made a mistake would they be severely criticized. The children would not participate in the adults' conversation, but they still had a sense of beauty. They all agreed that sixth aunt was very beautiful, even more beautiful than their mother. Even more beautiful than their mother. This was what Xia Jinyuan said to his nephews. Yi Qian blushed because of him. When the children went outside, they heard Xia Lingxiao's son, Xia Yi, instructing his younger brother. He said excitedly, "Let's build a snowman as beautiful as sixth aunt. What do you think?" Okay. Sixth aunt is wearing a military uniform, so our snowman has to wear a military uniform too, and a military cap. Sixth aunt is wearing a military cap, so the snowman has to wear a military cap too. Does sixth aunt have a gun? My father has a gun. Should I steal my father's gun and give it to the snowman? Then you can steal everything while you're at it. We don't have to steal anymore. You have to be quiet and don't get caught by the adults. Then come with me, big brother. I can't carry so many things. No, it's not stealing, it's taking. I'll return it to my father after I take it. Outside, the children were talking and talking. In the end, they decided to steal Xia Yui's military uniform. Xia Yui, who was sitting in the room, raised his hand and rubbed his temples. He said to the children's mother, "Isn't it too easy to fool him? Why'd he take the initiative to go home to get his own things? He wasn't like this before." That's because if your son didn't agree, the older brothers would think he's too young and wouldn't take him out to play. He needs to show some sincerity so that the older brothers will take him out to play. Your son is very smart. So there were so many twists and turns in the story. Xia Yui nodded with satisfaction. His son couldn't be stupid. If he was too stupid, he might be like old 5 and not have a girlfriend at his age. That would be troublesome. The children decided to make a snowman as beautiful as their sixth aunt. They also wanted to steal the adults' military uniforms, which made the old madam and the old master laugh from ear to ear for a long time. These children were all the same as their father when he was young. Little Yi is indeed the prettiest among us. She even praises her child. I wonder how beautiful sixth brother's child will be when he or she is born. Eldest aunt listened to her grandchildren's childish conversation and kept pursing her lips and smiling gently. She was 61 this year and had maintained herself very well. She looked to be in her early 50s, with not many wrinkles on her face. Her gaze was gentle, and she had a slight smile at the corner of her mouth. She was both beautiful and intelligent. She was the daughter-in-law that old madam was most satisfied with. She also liked Yi Qian very much. Her sixth son had been an orphan since he was young. Although she didn't know what his occupation was, she could more or less guess that her sixth son's occupation was very dangerous when she saw that her grandson cried when he was 5 years old. She also saw that her husband was very concerned about what kind of girlfriend her sixth son had, so she was afraid that her sixth son's occupation was very dangerous. Therefore, those gentle and delicate girls who needed to be coaxed by men from time to time were definitely not suitable for old six. Girls with personality and independence were also not suitable because they might not be able to stay at home. Only the old master's granddaughter was the most suitable. No matter what, she was a perfect match. As the saying goes, like pot, like lid. It was an old saying, and it couldn't be more appropriate. Old madam loved to listen to eldest aunt's words. She beamed with joy as if she would be able to hold Yi Qian and Xia Jinyuan's baby tomorrow. Chapter 34:04. When the sisters-in-law saw that old madam old master, and their parents were very satisfied with Yi Qian. They couldn't help but look at each other and laugh. They were also very satisfied. They could tell that their future sister-in-law was a girl with a gentle temper. It wouldn't be tiring to be her sisters-in-law, and they weren't afraid of saying the wrong thing and offending her. At this time, even if Yi Qian wasn't around, she was still the most talked about in the room. When they talked about Yi Qian's return to the Fu family, old Master Fu said in a deep voice, "Since we can't announce it to the public yet, we have to guard the house well. We can't make things difficult for the Fu family. When people outside ask if Six's brother has a girlfriend, you can just say that he has a fiancée. Your relationship is very stable, and your family is well-matched. Tomorrow, you can all go and pay old Master Fu a New Year's visit. In the future, you will be visiting relatives. The Fu family's matters are our family Xia's matters, so you have to treat them seriously." Old Master Fu didn't speak easily, but once he did, from his eldest son to his youngest grandson, they had to listen obediently and not go against him. As for Yi Qian's mother, old Master Fu didn't know much and didn't tell everyone. It was enough for eldest Uncle Xia Onghua and Commander-in-Chief Xia to deal with it. At the mention of the Fu family, eldest uncle and Commander-in-Chief Xia, who were sitting in the first apartment, looked at each other. Commander-in-Chief Xia leaned forward and said in a low voice, "I have to mention this to Xiao Yi and let her know what to do. You could decide on your own." Eldest uncle nodded and didn't stop Commander-in-Chief Xia from talking about this matter. He had to tell Xiao Yi in advance that Chen Dongfeng's identity had been exposed so that she would know what to do. As long as Chen Dongfeng stayed at the sniper's base, nothing would happen to him. Our country was a forbidden area for foreign mercenaries, so they couldn't enter our country. The biggest enemy of the Sniper King was none other than the mercenaries. Commander-in-Chief Xia nodded gently and planned to have a chat with Yi Qian later. Sun Ying used to be a student of the town's middle school, and she had always known Principal Chen. Who would have thought that this time she would accidentally reveal the identity of the Principal Chen? The hidden danger had been buried since Sun Ying was a student of the town's middle school, and it only came out today. It was both fortunate and unfortunate. Fortunately, the higher-ups had been monitoring Sun Ying. If anything happened, they would know immediately. Unfortunately, he couldn't immediately get rid of Sun Ying and hide the identity of Principal Chen. Otherwise, the efforts of the National Defense, the Military Department, and the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection for martyr son Xueqing would all be in vain. Between the two options, he could only choose to let Principal Chen's identity be exposed. Yi Qian didn't know about this yet. She was sitting in Xia Jinyuan's room, looking at the thick red packets on the bed and feeling very worried. So much. Should we take less? Just now, she casually opened a red packet and there were 18,000. This was from Xia Yiwei, so there was no need to mention the red packets from other people. It was only thick, not thin. She received so many red packets at once, and all of them were large amounts. She was a little flustered, especially the small wooden box that Second Aunt gave her. Captain Xia said it was made of red sandalwood, and the box alone was worth a lot of money. She didn't even dare to open it to see what was inside. Xia Jinyuan didn't panic at all. He took out a small military travel bag from the closet and put all the unopened red packets inside, without opening them to see how much money was inside. Hearing this, he smiled and said, "Why take less? Take half and return the other half. Do you think that's appropriate?" Chapter 34:05. It seemed inappropriate. Yi Qian coughed to hide her awkwardness. He continued, "Grandfather and father-in-law also gave me a big red packet. Look at me. I accepted it peacefully and didn't feel burdened at all. Similarly, when you come to my house, you should also feel at ease and don't feel burdened." He handed the red sandalwood box to Yi Qian and encouraged her, "Come, open it and see what's inside." Yi Qian took it and put aside. She shook her head and said, "No, let's go accompany the elders first. We've been in the room for so long. If we don't go out, let's go out first. I don't mind going out now, but I'm afraid you'll be shy and won't be able to withstand the elders' praise. Don't make things difficult for yourself." Xia Jinyuan leaned over and pinched Yi Qian's face gently with his slender fingers. He smiled gently and said, "Grandma asked us to go back to the room because she wanted me to take you somewhere safe. It won't be too late for us to go after the craze has died down." Old Madame Dowager had been paying close attention to Yi Qian. She noticed that her face had been red ever since she entered the house and knew that she was very shy. She also saw how helpless she was when she received the red packets from the elders, which made old Madame Dowager feel pity for her. Poor girl. She grew up in such an environment. Old Madame Dowager heard from old Madame Dowager that Yi Qian didn't have a good day when she was young. When she was still in elementary school, her heartless uncle kicked her in the chest and knocked her unconscious. Old Madame Yi, who later died of a stroke, threw her into the snow by the roadside. If old Uncle Jin hadn't come back to save Yi Qian's life, perhaps old Madame Yi wouldn't have been able to find a wife in this lifetime. Old Madame Dowager didn't want to think about it. Every time she thought about it, her heart would ache. Yi Qian had never received red packets from the elders during the new year. She didn't even have a new set of clothes. She was wearing Yi Jifan's daughter's old clothes from 2 years ago. The inside of the old clothes was purposely cut, but the outside was fine. To avoid gossip, they only cut the inside and not the outside. The old madam's heart ached for Yi Qian, so naturally, she would think for Yi Qian. Otherwise, how could she return to her room after receiving the red packet? After Xia Jinyuan received old madam's message, he generously brought Yi Qian back to his room. The elders all listened to the old madam's arrangements. They also knew that the newcomer was unnatural. When the time came, it would be difficult to talk to them with a bunch of red packets. It was fine to go back to the house and put away the red packets before coming out. Although Yi Qian was not as good at dealing with people as Xia Jinyuan, she knew that it was only because the elders noticed her awkwardness that she was allowed to come out for some fresh air. It had already been nearly 10 minutes, enough for him to run more than 2,000 meters. If she didn't go out now, it would be rude of her. When the elders saw Xia Jinyuan coming back with Yi Qian, the love in their eyes did not diminish. It was as if they were looking at their own daughter. They smiled and pulled Yi Qian to talk about other things. They did not mention the word red packet. The most they asked was whether Yi Qian treated her well. If Yi Qian did anything wrong, she should not be afraid. She should educate him directly and not let him go overboard. Men are always asking to be taught a lesson. Teach him a few lessons, and he will be obedient. Otherwise, if you let him do as he pleases, he will be terrible. He will only need a pair of wings to fly. The attentive young aunt imparted her experience to Yi Qian. Although second aunt died in the line of duty because of second granduncle, she also held Yi Qian's hand and said gently, "Yi Qian may speak coldly sometimes, but he is the kindest person in the world." He had a good relationship with Yi Wei. He knew how to protect his sister from being taken advantage of at a young age. Now that he has found you, second aunt can guarantee with my integrity that he will not let you down. Chapter 3406. Second aunt was also from a prominent family. She was kind and reserved when she spoke. She reminded Yi Qian like a mother. As for you, don't be afraid of him. Don't let him do as he pleases. If he does, teach him a lesson. Don't feel burdened. We, including old madam and old master, won't say anything bad about you. We'll even applaud and praise you for teaching him a good lesson. Men with family xia are a little stubborn. If you don't teach them a lesson, they'll completely indulge themselves. You have to control them. Don't be too lax. It's not good to be too lax. You have to be a little strict, but you can't be too strict. Every time you're strict, give them a sweet date and coax them a little. I guarantee that sixth brother will listen to you in the future. He'll go east and never go west. He'll respect and love you and will always be by your side. Ever since Yi Qian's birth mother passed away, she had lived 2 lifetimes but had never been treated like a mother. When she suddenly heard second aunt's kind and attentive advice, her heart instantly boiled with warmth. Her hand was held by second aunt, and she nodded meekly. Don't worry. I won't let you, old madam, and old master down. I won't let the elders in the family worry. You're a good child. Second aunt, I believe that you'll definitely lead a good life. In short, when you're with family Xia, you won't be wronged. No one will let anyone be wronged, let alone outsiders. Yi Jian's heart was filled with warmth when she heard that. She could tell what was hypocrisy and what was sincerity. As for second aunt and eldest aunt, they were sincerely concerned about her and hoped that she could live well with Captain Xia. How could she let down such precious care? When Xia Jinyuan heard that every time you're strict, give them a sweet date, he asked his four brothers who were already married and had children, "Have you all been like this?" "Occasionally," Xia Lingxiao replied calmly. Xia Jinyuan nodded to show that he believed him. Occasionally, it was because they rarely returned home throughout the year, so it was occasionally. After thinking for a while, he nodded. "It's definitely a wise decision for me to find a girlfriend who's like me." "It's indeed wise to eat more sweet dates if you can," Xia Yiding replied. Xia Jinyuan nodded again and said, "Of course. At least I get to eat sweet dates often, but you can only eat them occasionally." Occasionally or frequently? Which one do you prefer? Which would he choose between seeing his wife occasionally or seeing her regularly? Of course, he would choose the latter. As such, even if they had to eat a few more sweet dates after being scolded, they would still be happy. After understanding Xia Jinyuan's intention, everyone from the oldest to the youngest were instantly envious. Only Xia Yunin was not envious at all. He did not join the army, so he had freedom of movement, freedom of speech, and freedom in all aspects. Just now, he had pretended to take a very important phone call and escaped a calamity. He crossed his legs and said elegantly, "I'm the wise one. In the future, I won't have to worry about anything at all. Occasionally, my wife and I will see each other day and night." "You're thinking too much. Uncle and Auntie planned to find you a female officer." Xia Jinyuan mercilessly dealt a blow to the smug Xia Yunin. "The other sisters-in-law also think that it's totally possible. They're asking my girlfriend to introduce you to them." "That's right," Auntie and old Madame Xia casually said. "Why don't we let Xiao Yi introduce someone to fifth brother? What do you think?" Old Madame Xia nodded without hesitation. "Why not? It's totally possible. If fifth brother can find a girlfriend as good as Xiao Yi, the two of you won't have to worry anymore." Hence, Uncle Xia Jiazi thought for a while and agreed that it was indeed possible. Chapter 34:07. Then he said to Yi Qian, "Xiao Yi, for the sake of uncle and aunt, introduce a female military officer to your fifth brother. She doesn't have to be as pretty as you, as long as she has a good character and can subdue Lao Wu. Your aunt and I will live our own lives in seclusion from now on. We won't interfere in their affairs." If Uncle thought it was a good idea, then the four sisters-in-law also thought it was a good idea. At this moment, they were enthusiastically chatting with Yi Qian about what kind of female military officer they should find for their fifth brother, Xia Yunin. She had to have a good character and a pretty face. Most importantly, she had to have a certain level of fighting ability. Xia Yunin, who was feeling smug just a second ago, paid more attention, but when she heard this, she turned pale with fright. She pulled Xia Jinyuan's hand and said, "Privately, quickly persuade your wife not to find me a female military officer. I'm weak and sickly. If she throws a punch at me, I won't be able to defend myself. When that happens, I'll become addicted to domestic violence and get beaten up every day. Can you bear to see that?" "Pretty good. I'll ask around for you later." Xia Jinyuan firmly brushed away Xia Yunin's hand. He didn't feel bad at all. In fact, he raised both hands in agreement. Not only did he raise both hands in agreement, but Xia Lingxiao and the others also raised their hands in agreement. With this, Xia Yunin, who didn't join the military, had nothing to show off about. Unfortunately, Yi Qian didn't know any female military officers. The students in the school were inexperienced, so they were no match for Xia Yunin. Not to mention teaching him a lesson, they would be completely dominated by him. However, the elders were full of enthusiasm. They couldn't wait for her to bring out a more powerful female military officer. Yi Qian maintained a reserved smile and replied to the elders, "I'm still in school and don't know many people. If I really meet someone good, I'll definitely introduce her to fifth brother. Okay. If it really works out, and we'll give you another red packet to thank the matchmaker. Uncle will give you one too. As long as she has a good character, her family background isn't important. His uncle was hoping that someone would appear soon to take in the son that he was worried about. There was no need for him to pick a family. He no longer needed to rely on marriage to get to where he was now. Xia Yunin felt that she had lost everything. No one in the family was on her side. Everyone was counting on Yi Qian to find a girlfriend for her. Seeing that she couldn't turn the tide, Xia Yunin simply smiled and said, "That's fine too, sister-in-law. Then my marriage will depend on you. As long as I can succeed, I don't care about my family background. As for my appearance, it has to be delicate and pretty. I don't want the next generation to be so ugly that he won't be able to raise his head in front of his brothers and sisters. For the sake of the next generation, I still need to ask sister-in-law to help me choose a little. Thank you in advance, sister-in-law. I'm also relieved. I don't have to spend so much effort to find a satisfactory girlfriend. Find him a female military officer. That's fine. If he really wanted to find one, he could just find an excuse that he couldn't meet her. At that time, wouldn't it be up to him to decide whether or not it would work out? As a successful businessman, Xia Yunin quickly took the initiative in her hands. Yi Qian only smiled and didn't say anything. She couldn't make such a big decision. Xia Yunin wasn't someone who would let others influence her marriage. She just listened to the elders' wishes and said a few words. If Xia Yunin really told her personally one day, she would really pay attention to it. However, Xia Yunin, Yi Qian raised her head slightly and recalled her previous life. In her previous life, even someone like her who didn't care about the entertainment industry knew about his romantic affairs. Why would such a successful man who never got tired of playing with women need her to introduce a girlfriend to him? Chapter 34:08. While the family was chatting, a servant outside came in and said that the two elders of the Qin family had brought their grandson to pay a New Year visit to Old Master and Old Madam. Old Master and Old Madam Qin brought their grandson to family summer holiday. The room, which had been bustling with noise and excitement a second ago, suddenly quieted down. Everyone's expression didn't change, but their brows furrowed slightly. On the fourth day of the new year, the news that Xia Jinyuan would bring his girlfriend back to the family summer holiday was the first bomb, and the visit of the two elders of the Qin family was the second bomb. The two old madams had been at odds since they were young, and they were still at odds even when they were old. How did they become so close all of a sudden? They couldn't understand why the powerful old madam of the Qin family would come. Old Master Qin's visit could be explained. The relationship between Old Master Qin and Old Master Qin was a gentleman. When Old Master Qin went abroad as a diplomat, Master Xia, who was still in the military, accompanied him many times. Although they weren't family friends, they still kept in touch. However, after the two old masters retired, their relationship gradually faded. But there had never been any news of the two old madams coming to pay a New Year visit. Other than Old Madam and Old Master Qin, the rest of the elders were slightly startled. They looked at Old Madam and Old Master Qin, who stood up to greet them. Old Madam even instructed them. Later, Old Madam Qin must tell them well. Don't say anything that shouldn't be said. This was to remind the younger generation not to show their discord. They were guests, and they couldn't be rude to an old lady. She then said to eldest aunt, "Come out with us." The rest of the people stayed and waited for Old Madam Qin to enter the room before getting up. There were many people with the surname Qin in the capital, but only the Qin family, a diplomat family, could come directly to family summer holiday. Yi Qian didn't expect it to be the Qin family he knew, but Xia Jinyuan had already reacted, especially when he heard that his grandson had come to pay a New Year visit to the Old Madam and Old Master Qin. Xiao couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and smile faintly. One would not visit a family Xia for no reason. It seemed that something had happened. The Old Madam of the Qin family was one of the 3 iron-blooded wives back in the days. Why would she visit the Qin family for no reason? Xia Jinyuan was not the only one who thought so. Everyone else in the Xia family thought the same. At this time, old Madame Qin was already holding hands with old Madame. She said kindly, "I haven't gone out for a long time. I think that if I don't come out to visit friends now, I'm afraid that in a few years, even if I have the intention, I can't do it." Wasn't that right? As one grew older, one's lifespan decreased with each passing day. Who knew what would happen in the future? It was better to take advantage of the fact that one was still able to move around and walk around more. Hearing this, the old mistress could not help but sigh. Their generation was becoming fewer and fewer. Half a month ago, there was an old acquaintance who passed away in his sleep and ascended to the Western Paradise. That was the first time the two of them met, and it was under such a sad scene again. The two of them held hands and said a lot of intimate things, reminiscing about their youth. Out of 10 sentences, half were about the friend who passed away in her sleep, one of the 3 iron-blooded wives in the Secret Service who was known as one of the 3 iron-blooded wives. For a moment, they felt less distant and more intimate. Old Master Qin and old Madame Qin brought their grandson over for the new year. It was obvious that the relationship between the two families would become better and better. Old Madame Qin smiled and said, "That's right. I was planning to visit your house when it was quieter these few days. Who knew that you were still as efficient as when you were young?" Chapter 3409. I'm old. I don't have the complexion of when I was young, let alone agile. Look at me now. I'm trembling when I walk. Alas, I'm old. I'm really old. Old Madame Qin laughed and sighed, but she couldn't hear anything else. When they were young, old Madame Qin was also a strong woman, and so was old Madame Qin. The two of them had worked together in the same agency, so there would be some friction between the two of them. Later, they got married and had children. One married a diplomat, and the other married a military officer. Their family backgrounds were similar. Even if they didn't compare themselves, their colleagues in the agency would. Moreover, the two of them were two of the famous 3 iron-blooded wives in the agency. If they didn't compare themselves with them, who else could they compare themselves with? They weren't bad friends when they were young, but they didn't have any contact in private except for work, even when they grew older. The older generation knew that the 2 old madams of the Qin family and family Xia didn't see eye to eye when they were young, and they still didn't see eye to eye when they were old. Even if they had worked in the same agency and sat in the same office, they still didn't have any contact. Now that they suddenly buried the hatchet, it was no wonder that eldest aunt and eldest uncle were surprised. They were all very surprised, but they didn't show it on their faces. The visitor was a guest, and she was also an old woman. The younger generation didn't have the right to talk. Soon, the 2 old madams pulled each other and chatted intimately. There was no tit-for-tat like when they were young. Behind them, the 2 old men also laughed and chatted. There was no grudge between the old men, but because their wives couldn't tolerate sand, they had always been friends with gentlemen and didn't have a deep relationship. Otherwise, with the friendship of visiting abroad many times, they would definitely be good friends. The Qin family is stronger than the previous generation. The youngest diplomat in your family is a role model for young people. He's young, but he has the demeanor of your youth. His future is limitless. The one who spoke was the old man. He praised Qin Xiu at first sight. It wasn't polite words, but sincere praise. The old master was most concerned with national affairs. How could the old master not know Qin Xiu, a young and promising diplomat who fought for the glory of the country? He even said to the old madam many times, "The Qin family is also a little strange. Every generation, there will be an outstanding man, but there will also be a man who will give others a headache. It's still the same in this generation." In Qin Xiu's father's generation, his youngest son had given birth to an illegitimate son, Qin Yi. If not for Qin Xiu's father, Ambassador Qin Dingkong, who had some tricks up his sleeves, this matter would have been known by everyone. When it came to Qin Xiu's generation, the illegitimate son Qin Yi, who was recognized by the Qin family, was also a disorderly person. He used the living signboard of the Qin family to live a good life in the capital. He was a typical dandy who did not do anything. The old madam also said strange. It was indeed the case. A good bamboo shoot was followed by a bad one. It had been this way for generations and had never changed. In old Master Qin's generation, it was his younger brother who made trouble. At that time, there was a secret rumor that Ambassador Qin Dingkong's younger brother was not actually his biological brother, but the flesh and blood left behind by old Master Qin's younger brother. Because of this, another illegitimate son was born. However, these were old stories. Now, except for the older generation who still knew some inside stories, few of the younger generation knew. The same was true for the new nobles in the capital. They didn't dare to secretly discuss the Qin family's affairs. Master Xia and the old madam, who knew the inside story, were even more unlikely to say anything. Chapter 34:10. The two old ladies met at the funeral of an old friend of one of the deceased three ladies of iron and blood. They had not seen each other for many years, and they were no longer young. They had white hair and deep wrinkles. For a while, they were silent for a long time. Then, they slowly talked to each other and made up their minds. They promised to visit each other more often when they were free and not be as willful as they were when they were young. Therefore, old Madam Qin and old Master Qin went out to visit their old friends on the 4th day of the new year. When old Master Qin heard his old friend talk about his grandson, his tone was sincere and not polite. He felt relieved and humble at the same time. "You're flattering me. I just learned it from his father. I don't deserve your praise. I don't expect anything from him in the future. I only hope that he can serve the country well now. Then, I have no regrets." "Ha ha ha. You're still the same as when you were young. You've taken advantage of others, but you still have to pretend to be obedient. You've personally cultivated two powerful diplomats. What regrets do you have? You're still the same as before. You always say that I have to pretend to be obedient after taking advantage of others. Our national conditions were like this at that time. Sometimes we have to be like this. I'm not like you. You'll pull a long face when you don't agree with us. Once you pull a long face, we diplomats start to tremble in fear. I'm really afraid that you'll open fire on those countries that want to take advantage of our country. When the great leader was here, he secretly told me that as long as you pull a long face, you'll do anything. I'm so nervous. I'm afraid that something will happen." Recalling the past, the two old men also laughed loudly. Before they arrived, they had already laughed. Everyone in the house knew that the two old men were very happy about the arrival of the two old men of the Qin family. They were not like the old ladies of the two families who did not contact each other at all. They were more like old friends who came to visit and were very happy. Then, they heard old Master Qin say in a strong and vigorous voice, "Qin Xiu, quickly thank your grandpa Xia for his praise. He doesn't praise people easily. Today, he praised you. It's obvious that you've really done something that your grandpa Xia praises." As a grandfather, he naturally knew how outstanding his grandson was. However, he was even happier to hear his old friend who did not praise people easily. This meant that his grandson had been recognized by the older generation. There was nothing happier than this. Qin Xiu said respectfully, "Thank you for your praise, Mr. Xia. It's what I should do." He was neither servile nor overbearing and remained unfazed by honor or disgrace. He displayed the demeanor of a diplomat in every aspect, which made the old man, who was observing from a close distance, even more satisfied. The country needed such people to carry heavy beams and shoulder heavy responsibilities. The words Qin Xiu drifted into Yi Qian's ears. Yi Qian reflexively looked at Xia Jinyuan, who was sitting next to her. Coincidentally, Xia Jinyuan was also looking at her. When their eyes met, Yi Qian's eyes were filled with questions. In the past, Captain Xia had personally told her that the old madam of the Qin family and the old madam at home had been at odds since they were young. But from the laughter and chatter of the four old men, how did it sound like they were at odds? Clearly, they had a very good relationship. Xia Jinyuan was also puzzled. He shook his head slightly at Yi Qian, indicating that he also did not understand why the two old men had suddenly reconciled. Then he looked at the expressions of eldest uncle, youngest uncle, and old man Xia. They were also puzzled. It seemed that only the four old men could understand. The four old men chatted and laughed as they entered. Qin Xiu followed closely behind them. After entering, Qin Xiu was so shocked by the room full of people that she stopped in her tracks. She knew that family Xia had a prosperous family, but when she saw them, the impact on her heart was still very strong. Especially since there were many people in military uniforms, it was even more visually shocking. However, the one who shocked Qin Xiu the most was still Yi Qian. Chapter 34:11. Yi Qian wasn't shocked, nor did she seem flustered by Qin Xiu's arrival. This was the family Xia, and old Madam and old Master Xia had welcomed the two elders so calmly. The elders in the family Xia didn't ask her to leave because of her status. They had inadvertently told her in the most direct way that no matter what her status was, the family Xia would protect her. Therefore, when she saw Qin Xiu looking at her, the corners of his mouth curled up, and he revealed a slight smile. For a moment, Qin Xiu felt as if his feet had been nailed to the ground. However, he quickly calmed down and smiled at Yi Qian to show his courtesy. As he retracted his gaze, he discreetly looked for Xia Jinyuan out of the corner of his eye. From the bustling family Xia hall, he was able to spot Yi Qian at a glance, but he didn't notice where Xia Jinyuan was sitting. When he saw Xia Jinyuan again, Qin Xiu felt a slight bitterness in his heart. His emotions were more or less affected. He didn't have time to do anything, but Xia Jinyuan had already brought Yi Qian home so quickly. When he looked at the elders in the family Xia hall, he could feel the warm atmosphere when he walked in. It was clear that the elders in the family Xia had already accepted Yi Qian. Yi Qian was such a good girl, and it was indeed easy for others to accept her. As for him, after his failed confession, he knew that she loved someone and that she belonged to someone else. He also knew that Xia Jinyuan doted on her a lot. No matter how upset he felt, he had to stand far away and never disturb her life. Since he couldn't get close to her, it was better to stay away from her. Otherwise, things would become more complicated and, in the end, implicate her. Xia Jinyuan had been looking at Qin Xiu ever since he walked in. When he saw that the first person he saw was his girlfriend, even though he knew what Qin Xiu was thinking, he couldn't help but feel a little jealous. His precious girlfriend was coveted by another man. No matter how much he didn't take it to heart, he still felt a little sour when they met. Fortunately, Qin Xiu did not do anything impolite. He only paused beside Yi Qian for a moment and then calmly moved away. He was very gentlemanly, which made Xia Jinyuan jealous, and at the same time think more highly of Qin Xiu. J5 was right. If Yi Qian had met Qin Xiu earlier, with Qin Xiu's outstanding performance and way of handling things, he and Qin Xiu might have swapped roles today. Qin Xiu was not a man who could be swayed by his family. He had his own set of principles when dealing with people. As a diplomat, if he couldn't even protect the people he wanted to protect, he wouldn't be a diplomat or a man. Thinking of this, Xia Jinyuan was glad that he met Yi Qian first. He also knew early on that, with his girlfriend's outstanding performance, there would definitely be many outstanding men pursuing her. Fortunately, he was prepared for danger in times of peace and seized the opportunity to seize the opportunity. Fortunately, he had the foresight to tell his elders in advance. Fortunately, he took the time to confirm their relationship and met each other's parents to confirm his identity. Otherwise, with Qin Xiu's ability, there might really be variables between him and Yi Qian. Fortunately, he was the one who took the lead in everything. Qin Xiu was destined to be one step behind and miss her for life. Xia Jinyuan secretly rejoiced. Qin Xiu's mouth was full of bitterness, but he suppressed all the bitterness in his heart. His elegant and handsome face maintained a decent smile as he greeted the other elders in the family Xia. Old Madam Qin focused on introducing Yi Qian and beckoned Yi Qian to come to her side. She held Yi Qian's hand intimately and said to Old Madam Qin, This is my sixth brother's girlfriend. She's fresh and beautiful. Ever since I found out that my sixth brother found her, I've been overjoyed all day. Now I just hope that they can get married soon so that I can hold my great-grandchildren. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.